Here on Accidental Kiss, we try our best to do this. Analyze Asian dramas and not relive the trauma. Now that you know what's in store, just sit back and tune in more. Please enjoy our podcast, Accidental Kiss.
Welcome to Accidental Kiss. On this podcast, we analyze the representation, or lack thereof, in Asian dramas from the perspective of drama fans. I'm Wathanya, I'm Lao/Laotian, whichever term you prefer, and I basically grew up with Asian dramas.
Hello, my name is Faith. I'm a Black U.S. citizen who was maybe a little too obsessed with Asian dramas in her college days, but now wants to rekindle her love for them through this podcast. Thanks for tuning in.
We're back with part 2 of our episode on the Japanese drama Buraku Kosoku, or Black School Rules. If you haven't listened to part 1 of this episode, we highly recommend you do it before listening to this one. It will give you a lot of much needed context.
And as we always say, context is very important. In this part, we're going to continue discussing the representation and Black School Rules, and we are joined again by our amazing guest, Ayumi, from Sparkleside Chats with Magical Girl Ayu. Welcome back, Ayumi.
Hello, thank you for having me back. I guess I should probably reintroduce myself for anyone who doesn't know who I am. So again, I'm the host of Sparkleside Chats, but also my context for Asian dramas is I didn't grow up with them so much. More recently, I've been watching a lot more of them in the magical girl genre specifically, but I'm also very interested in general in representation of half Japanese characters because I am a half Japanese person. I think that's probably all the information you need.
Thank you, Ayumi. We're really glad to have you back.
Yes.
We're really gonna be getting into the nitty-gritty of the representation and Black School Rules in this episode, so we would really appreciate your perspective on this.
Yes,
but
definitely.
Before we move on, we will be discussing the entirety of many characters and plot lines. Like, I want to say plot lines, but like, to be honest with you, it's the format confuses me, so I hesitate to say plot line, but yes, plot line. So spoilers ahead.
Also, we will be discussing parental neglect, bullying, manipulation, the Confederate flag, xenophobia, racism, death from overwork, physical abuse, emotional abuse, trauma, discrimination, abuse of power, obsession, attempted suicide, death, and grooming in this episode.
So, if you're sensitive to these issues, which is completely understandable, do prioritize your mental health and overall well-being.
All right, then let's get into it. So in this episode, we will start by talking about the representation of class. As far as we know, there aren't any wealthy characters in this show that I noticed. I don't know if you all noticed anyone.
No one is specifically labeled as such, it's true.
Yeah. And so middle class, I would say most of the characters seem to be roughly middle class, with a few notable exceptions.
I mean, I guess Mao and her mom are more on the lower end of middle class.
Yeah, like either low middle class or something. Yeah. And then I would say perhaps one of the male leads, Chuya. He's like he seems to be pretty struggling, especially because his father passed away, and so he has to take up a part-time job to help support his mother and his family. So, definitely on the, I would say, kind of poorer end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And so also the factory workers, I'm pretty sure they're on the poorer end because they are making 900 yen, which is like, I guess about the equivalent of like about $9 an hour for their work. That I remember that being said specifically in one of the episodes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So they're definitely not making that much.
Oh yeah, 900 yen per hour. Yeah, that's only a bit higher than, what's the word again? Minimum wage.
Yeah.
Speaking of minimum.
Oh wow, is that higher than minimum wage? Wow.
Yeah, minimum wage is like,
No.
I believe in Nagoya it's 824.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, speaking of like minimum wage, we really gotta talk about like workers' rights, strikes, and unions. So the factory workers in the drama had like a strike to protest the gross mistreatment that they suffer from the comically racist factory manager. But like it points to a reality that many Japanese companies don't really allow foreign workers to participate with, like, whether it's like, national politics or politics within the company. Like,
Yeah.
If you have anything to add, Ayumi, you are my guest, so.
Well, I thank you. I mean, I don't really know about this a whole lot personally speaking because I am a Japanese citizen, but I'm pretty aware of like this coming up a lot in recent years, as a lot of people were talking about politics on a global scale, especially during the Black Lives Matter marches and so on in 2020 in Japan. There was a very big commotion made about them being labeled as marches in particular because they didn't want to have any foreign residents getting in trouble at that time. So it's it's not something that I know in depth, and I'm sure it definitely depends on the area, but I do think that it's interesting that in the context of the show, the strike was like an idea that they all had together, but the factory workers do include one Japanese man who's a little older, and even if he himself didn't have any like personal connection to any sort of like work, striking, organizing, or so on, he might have like that idea a bit more strongly than other folks around, like younger Japanese people, so on. Not to generalize a whole lot, but there's a past history that certainly more people have researched better than I have on the topic of like the history of organizing within Japan, and even for just Japanese citizens it's been one thing, but then like it's there's more risk taken if you are a foreign resident and you're trying to organize.
Oh yeah,
so
definitely.
Yeah.
Yes, thanks. Yeah, I remember you mentioning that before, but yeah, thanks for sharing. I wonder if that was done purposefully, because I do think that Inoue-san is the most like, I guess, ally, like I would say, like the most like good, the best example I would say in this show, which is not, I guess that's not saying much, but still in this show, like an ally, like I would say he's like the closest thing I would consider like as being like an ally, because he really does stand up for the other factory workers. He really does see them as like kind of his own family, I would say. Like he really like stands up for them. He's always like on their side. He's the one who helps them, like it suggests, okay, we need to strike, we need to organize, we need to do this stuff. So I wonder if that's like a purposeful thing of like they're like, okay, this is an older Japanese man, maybe he did some protesting back in the day or something. I just wonder if that was intentional, like
yeah, it certainly could be. Yeah,
I hope so.
Yeah, we'll let's count it. Why not?
Okay. So of course, because of the Japanese work culture is bad for foreigners, but it's like also not the best for Japanese people either. So the toxic Japanese work culture, which I'm sure a lot of people know about, a lot of people overwork themselves. And as we said before, Chiya's father ends up dying from karoshi, or like death from overworking. So it really is taken to like that extent, some of these companies, and it's really sad and unfortunate.
It is. And this is related to what we're talking about. I saw, you might know Simon Yates, who posts about like, COVID-19 news and things like that on Facebook. And I believe his article today had a segment about, it is presented as like, foreign workers having more mental health issues. And the person that was featured is like, I work from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day. And I'm like, oh my god. how is this person still alive?
Oh no!
But to be fair, the comments, or maybe it was Simon's own comments, I'm not sure, was something along the lines of, it's interesting how like there's this horrible treatment at work, but it is presented as her own mental issue.
Oh no!
So yeah, definitely toxic work culture.
Yeah. I think that's a big thing. Oh yeah. Yeah, actually, so I think it also is kind of like insidious in a way because like, you know, Japan is like has this reputation all over the world of being like, actually we're hard workers and like, you know, they do so much, they're not lazy like America, you know, because everyone has this like stereotype of Americans, we're all lazy, you know, we don't do anything, and it's like, oh, but in Japan they work hard and like they do what they need to do, and like they're always kind of like, at least I would say abroad, like there's this image of like Japan, like Japanese people being very hardworking and like very efficient, and like, you know, we should be more like them. Like I do definitely see this kind of sense of like, you know, our work culture should be more similar, or like we should do things like Japan does because they're just so like, you know, hardworking and efficient and stuff like that. But then it's like when you see this kind of culture that like literally kills people from working, it's like, okay. Is that what we want to do?
Well, I know for sure that's not what I want to do.
Yeah.
Don't either.
Yeah, let's move on to the representation of race. We will start with, as always, white people.
Yeah. I maybe we should stop doing that. I don't know. Like, should we change that?
Well, to be fair, I feel like if you're going to pick, like, the one group that, if you're going to have any representation of race, it's almost always white people.
That's true.
So
that's
it makes
true.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But then I feel like we're kind of prioritizing them by putting them first. Maybe we should put them like, I don't know, after someone else. But, you know, it's fine. We'll keep it there. We'll keep it there.
Make people, like, you know, second guess themselves.
Like, what?
Like, oh my god, there's no representation of white people.
To be fair, though, this drama, like, it has a little bit, but not. Actually, there are, like, 2 black characters, which I was surprised. I'm sorry. I'm still shocked. I'm still shocked. Okay, go on with the white people, please.
Yeah. Thank you. So, the white people that came up, one is apparently a random white guy.
Okay. So he's technically he's in the special. He's not in this drama, but I just added him. I just put him in there.
Because it did appear in like, you know, the network, so to speak. Mal's father. It is a show
technically. Oh. So I put that in there, but that's in the movie, yeah.
Mal's father is in the movie, and apparently he is white.
Yes.
And, you know, Mal herself is biracial. Her actress as well is biracial, Japanese white. I really don't know how to read this. It's just like Japanese/white. It's a...
Yeah, that's fine, I think.
I'm sorry,
speaking as a Japanese and white person, you can say,
usually
Japanese
when I hear about like biracial Japanese people, it's Japanese hyphen nationality
/white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, I just put a slash there. Wathanya, I just put a slash there. Okay. I'm sorry.
To be fair, I mean, it's never really stated exactly for until like pretty late in the special where Mao comes from. I know her actress is like her white side is American, but like I don't know if that's, for example, like her being like that being her nationality as well, because it might not be the case. I don't know the details. Yeah.
Fair. Yeah, that's true. They don't really tell you much at all.
I mean, what is there to say? She is part white, and white people are seen as cool, desirable, maybe somewhat unreliable, I don't know, in the drama, and apparently also Hulu special. I didn't see the Hulu special, I'm sorry.
Well, in the Hulu special, like, I don't know, like, I feel like, because, well, okay, I'll talk about it more, I guess because this is the representation of race. Okay, so I will talk about it here. Okay, so like in the special, Ian, is it right?
Yeah.
He's seen as kind of like a threat for Mal's like affection to Sora. Like he's like, oh, is that her boyfriend? You know, it's not, but like, you know, he's like, ooh, like speculating, and so like, you know, he's seen as like someone who could be potentially, I guess, dating her because he's cool and white, I guess, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah. It's. I mean, it probably would be worth getting into more when talking more about Mao as being like, a biracial, like, case of biracial representation. But, the main thing that was really showing him as a threat was the fact that Mao hugged him. And, Soda could not imagine why that would happen. Just hugs are just like scandalous, absolutely scandalous.
Yeah, no. He looked it up online, like he was like searching, like.
Yep.
What does it mean?
Yeah, but like he definitely is presented as like very much a threat to him romantically, and like could be a rival, but like also he barely appears, and like it's mostly just sort of like again being obsessed with Mao and trying to figure out what's going on with like her and her relationships with other people. So it is very interesting.
Sounds like a stalker drama.
It
really is.
It actually is. No,
he really is a stalker.
He is. He totally is. He's completely a stalker. But that's seen as like cute and endearing with like young boys. That's how it's portrayed. That's how it's portrayed in the show. Like it's like, oh, he's just so in love with her, right? Like, oh.
Still debatable.
All right, then this time I will talk about Black people. So there's actually 2 Black people in this show. I must say I have to give this show like an applause just for that. Like, slow clap, something, because like that does not really happen much in Japanese shows. Like, I mean honestly, even in some American shows, it's hard. Like,
sure,
two Black characters, like 2 Black like characters with like lines who interact with each other.
And they have names.
Yeah, they have names, and they do things, and they serve the plot. Both of them. Oh my god! Yeah, wow. This was a lot. I was very happily surprised by that. So they're working at the construction site. First is Kofi, who is Ghanaian, and he's a Ghanaian immigrant, and I put he stands up to the man because like he actually does talk back to the like cartoonishly racist factory owner or whatever. Like the factory manager, he actually stands up to him first. Like he actually says like, no, we're not gonna take this. He loves to rap, which all the foreign workers seem to love to do, and he does seem to miss his home country's food. Because I believe we talked about it in the last episode, but like there is a scene where he is like peeking through Mao's house, like into like the kitchen, because like her mom is making something, like I think some kind of pasta maybe or something with
I do think it's Neapolitan pasta, which is
Neapolitan. Okay.
Ketchup pasta.
Okay. But she has tomatoes, and there's a lot of tomatoes and a lot of food in Ghana, so it reminded him of home, and like he wanted to eat the food. And then there's Grayson, who is a Black American, I believe, even though we never hear him speak English, and like I don't know, but I think he's American. I think he's supposed to be American.
Yeah, I think so as well.
And he also raps. They all love to rap.
Of course they do.
More on that later. And so this is not a Black person, but I do think it has something to do with Black issues.
Yes.
So when I was watching Black School Rules for the first time, I was looking at the episode where they got to bring their own cool fun school lunches, bring whatever they want. And I was looking at so they have these things called furoshiki, like it's kind of like a cloth thing that like Japanese people use to like tie up like goods, or like, for example, their lunchbox, like they'll tie it up in that and carry it. So I was looking at those, and one of them looked very much like the Confederate flag. And so I paused it. And I looked at it and I was like, yes, this is definitely the Confederate flag. And so I screenshot it. It's like, yes, this is the Confederate flag. And so, as I'm sure I don't have to explain to you all why that is a problem, but for our listeners, just in case they don't know, the Confederate flag has a lot of negative connotations, especially for Black people in America. It's the flag of the Confederacy. So when the U.S. had their Civil War in the 1800s, the Confederates were the ones who wanted to keep slaves, and Black people were those slaves. So it's not a very fun image to see on my screen. when I'm watching a show that's talking about like standing up for rights, especially a show that's like, oh, you should like protest this like, you know, injustice that's happening, and then one of the main characters has a Confederate flag as their cloth thing.
Yeah. When I was watching it, I didn't pay that much attention to the screen. It was that boring. Oh, I'm sorry. It didn't it didn't hold my attention. Anyway, I wasn't really watching the screen, so when Faith sent me the screenshot, I was like, "Oh my fucking Jesus, baby Christ!"
Yeah, it's interesting because I have never seen the Confederate flag in Japan myself, but I could imagine someone accidentally like not knowing the context of the flag. The same way that like I once I'm trying to remember what year it was, but there was a year where I did see like at a random restaurant a Japanese man wearing a MAGA shirt, and I was pretty sure he had no idea what he was wearing. So it's just like, it's just this thing that's like, well, if we don't have any context, you can see that and confuse it for like, you know, the Union Jack or the Australian flag or like a whole bunch of other flags that are red, white, and blue and have stars on them. And, you know, Chuya, I'm not sure I would be confident that he would know what it means.
Oh, no. Chuya has no idea what it means. I mean, I doubt the people who put it in there. I hope, at least, they don't know what it means. And I get that. I totally, of course, I don't think they purposely did it, you know, but at the same time,
it is a problem still. But it's just,
especially in a show that's like trying to talk about like rights and like standing up, you know, for things, and like has two black actors in it. Like it's a little jarring. It's a little bit of a, you know, I wish. Like, the thing is, though, I want to say that I wish there had been a conversation, maybe with like, especially the Black American actor, you know, maybe. But the thing is, I don't even know if he would have even seen it until the show came out, because, like, from what I've heard with this whole, like, you know, how they do these scenes, that you literally just do the scenes that you're in, and then, like, that's it. Like, so he might not even known it was there until the show came out, and he watched it. Maybe he saw it. You know? Maybe he saw it, because he might have not even paid attention. Like, you know, maybe he missed it, like Wathanya. Maybe he wasn't paying attention to that part. Yeah. Maybe he was paying attention to his parts, right?
I was trying to imagine the scene in which that would happen. It would become, like, a teaching moment thing again. You know, like, just, like, the black character, like, trying to teach the Japanese boy about anti-blackness. It's like, I'm not sure if that's really appropriate either, but you know,
I'm gonna talk about that a little later as well. But like, it's like, it's hard. It's a really difficult thing to do, because it's like, I do think they just don't know. But at the same time, I do think when they're told what it is, and that they should just stop using it, and then they, you know, that should be the end. Like, it's like yes, they're ignorant. I don't blame them for like not knowing, but once they do know, then it's like, okay, well, you need to make sure this doesn't happen, and you know, again, like, don't do this, like, you know. And so I just found it a bit jarring.
This whole thing reminds me a little bit of, I don't know if I should call it a protest. It was a marching in Sakai just weeks after the Pride March. There was like a We Hail Trump march.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Okay,
it was very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised, because I do know there are some like staunch Trump supporters here in Japan. Like, there's a few, like, not a lot, but they are here. And they are loud, but to me it was weird, because like Trump's not in office anymore, so I'm like, what are they trying to accomplish? Like, I don't understand.
It's a mystery. Well, to be fair, if you ask those supporters, they probably think he should still be in office.
I'm sure, yeah. Even though it affects them in no way, like, and they can't vote and they have no say, and it's like, okay, all right, you know, if you really wanted to be in office, I guess so. But I couldn't imagine me having that much like passion about who's the prime minister in Japan, even though I live here, like, I do live here, but I still am not like, oh my god, no, you know, I don't know, whoever else should still be or should have been, like, you know, prime minister instead. Like, I can't imagine having that much passion that I would march about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's also a little
Yeah.
bit different in Japan because prime ministers aren't directly elected. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But also like they can't. Well, most of them, I'm assuming, can't vote for the president though,
Right.
either. So yeah, it's I don't understand, but yeah, interesting.
But yeah, it was an interesting event.
Okay, so about the constantly having black characters rap throughout a show. So on the one hand, I liked it because at least they got to rap, like I said before, like in I think the previous episode, they got to rap in Japanese, which was I did not expect that at all, because usually, I mean, yeah, Yumi, I know you haven't watched like a lot of dramas, but like in most of the dramas that I've seen, the foreigner is there to be a foreigner.
Right.
They are there to like say random English so the Japanese person can look cool by saying English back to them, or just so they can be like, oh no, it's a foreigner, what do I do? Like that's like literally the only two options for foreigners. Like, or I guess if you're black, you can also be a thug,
Right.
you know, like, you know, in Hanari Dango. Like you get you get only a few choices when you're a foreigner in these shows. And so to have foreign, like especially black foreign actors and like black foreign characters who can be something more than just the foreigner there, and they actually have a place in the plot and they actually do stuff and like they actually like, you know, affect the story, like like the bar's so low. Like I don't know, like, it's just like the bar is just so low that I'm like, wow, like I'm just so like, you know, amazed by that. And also the fact that they allow them to speak in Japanese. A lot of times they will not let foreigners speak in Japanese, even if they can. Like it doesn't matter. They're just like, well, you're a foreigner, so foreigners speak English, or like whatever language I guess you use your native language. And so the fact that they let them actually rap in Japanese and have a part in the show, I am very happy about. Especially rapping in Japanese, that's quite difficult. So
it is.
I'm glad they allowed them to do that. Like they let them do that and they did it, you know? They did it.
Yeah.
That's amazing. But at the same time, as a black person, especially as a black American person, seeing the only black characters constantly rapping all the time is like a huge, like, you know, stereotype.
Yeah,
like
of course.
black, like especially black men. And so to see them only doing that for the most part, almost everything is a rap. It's like, can we at least make one of them not a rapper? Like I don't know. It's like I don't know, like, or make another black character who doesn't rap.
Yeah.
Who's just like, nah, I'm just gonna talk. Yeah, I'm not into rapping. Sorry.
Yeah, definitely. There could have been. Could you imagine if there was a third black person in this show?
Oh my God, Ayumi, stop! You're gonna break like the time-space continuum. Like, oh my God. 3 black characters, Ayumi? That's too much. Come on. You know there aren't 3 black people in Japan? Oh my God. Oh, yeah, that's what honestly, I wish they would have had a black woman
That
character.
would have also been
They would
great.
have done another
Yeah.
one. Yeah, they would have. Yeah, they could have had a black woman character who's like, I don't feel like rapping, and you know, she just
Imagine
talks.
like they cut
Like-
to her and she's like, I'm not rapping. What are you doing?
That'd be hilarious. Like, I ain't rapping. Like, you know, I'm just not gonna do it. Like, no, I'm not gonna rap. Like, you know, like that would have been great. Like that would have been
Reminds me
hilarious.
of
I
that
would love
meme
that.
where I think it's like a screen cap from TV where like a black woman's like, I ain't got time for that.
Oh,
Yeah, there's a meme. That
Yeah.
meme.
Yeah.
That meme. Yeah, I know that meme. Yeah, it's a really popular meme. But yeah, pretty much. Like, she's just like, nope, not doing that. Like, that would have been great. I mean, honestly, to even just have a black woman character would have been nice. So yeah, rapping all the time and being black, it's like difficult because it's like, yeah, there are black people who rap and like to rap, and you know, that is some of us, but like that's not all of us. And so it's, you know, it's nice to have a little bit of different, because it's like, especially because that's a big stereotype like worldwide about black people, and so it's like, let's have something a little different, you know. You could have like, I like the style, I like that they rapped some stuff at them. I thought the stuff they rapped was very clever and interesting, so I did like it. But yeah, it would have been nice to have a black character who wasn't rapping, you know, just to have that representation, just to have someone who was like, no, I don't rap, not good at rapping, I can't rap, sorry. You know, like just, you know, I want the people who can't rap and can't dance. Where are those black people? Like, like, where's my representation? I need that representation. For me, I need it. So I want to see that. I want to see that in my shows. I mean, you know, but yeah, so yeah, the rapping got a little like it got a little too much for me after a while. I was like, oh God, are they gonna rap again? Like I was like, are they gonna rap everything? And then also there was a scene where Mari, like when Kofi goes over to Mao's house to like eat like food or like to have dinner or whatever, there's a scene where Mari touches like kind of pets Kofi's hair or something. Like she's just kind of like petting it like, you know, like a dog or something. Also she like touches his muscles kind of in a weird way as well. Like, I don't know, just the way she touched him seemed kind of like uncomfortable to me.
Oh yeah.
Like if someone touched me like that, I would be like, please get your hand off me.
It reminded me of Get Out for sure.
Oh yeah, that's true.
The same energy. It's like, what's she doing?
Yeah, that's true. There was a white lady actually, that touched like the main character's like arm or something in a weird way. Yeah, that's true. It does have the same energy. Oh my God. Oh no, get out, Kofi, get out.
Yeah. It's like, because like nothing ever happens between them, but it's very clear that like she's got her eye on him.
Yeah, like really got her eye on him. Like it's like, whoa, ma'am, calm down.
I mean, she is the character that had a very strong Gaijin Hunter vibe.
Yes, it's true. Yeah, she's definitely a Gaijin. Yeah. And it also reminded me of a lot of things that I've experienced here in Japan as well, especially when I had my hair natural. Like I would have kids and even adults try and touch my head, trying to be like,
oh my God, is
it real? Oh, is it perm? Oh, like, you know, like no, I've had like everything you can imagine, like every kind of question, every kind of random people just putting their like hand towards my head without even asking me, just like literally reaching towards me. Like I remember one time I had braids, braid extensions, like braids in my hair, and I was waiting for the train, and some random lady behind me just started touching she just started like running her fingers through my braids, and I was like, oh my God, and I was like in Japanese, please do not touch my head. Like I don't know where your hands have been. Like I don't know you, lady.
Yeah.
Please do not touch me.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry that happened to you. I feel like a lot of the stuff that happens now in Japan, like I cannot obviously speak for personal experience, but from what I've heard from other Black people who live in Japan, I think the kind of attitudes and stuff are just like basically everything feels like a decade at least like outdated compared to like what conversations are had in the US, because there are definitely still people, I can't speak for any other countries because I haven't lived anywhere else, but I know for sure like in the US, even like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, people were having that conversation like, you're not supposed to like touch people's hair without their permission, like regardless of who it is. That's weird. How would you feel if someone just randomly came up to you and touched your hair? Like, I mean, like, I can even think of, like, stuff like movies from, like, the mid-2000s where that would happen.
Yeah. No, me too. I remember that time because I was a Black person.
Yeah, exactly. You would know more than me.
I had to deal with that.
Yeah.
I had to do that. I had to deal with that, yes. Yes. Sure. It's true. It's, Japan's a bit behind on that, which, makes sense. There are less, I guess, Black people. But at the same time, it's like, not to touch other people's hair. Why would you touch my hair?
Right.
Like, not to touch people's hair, especially a grown person. Like, if it's a kid, I understand a little bit more, like, especially a little kid, like a, 5-year-old or something. Right. That's one thing. But, like, a grown woman, like a grown, older than me, is, like, putting her hands, like, through my hair. Like, that, no. Like, she knows that's not appropriate. She knows that's not right.
Right.
No excuse. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't care how curious you are. You don't just, like, touch people's hair. Like, it's weird. Like, yeah. So that gave me, like, a bit of, like, past trauma.
Oh, for sure.
Like, no, stop touching his head. Stop touching. Because I've had, even my sister-in-law, she, when I had my braids, and she was like, oh, like, you're trying to, like, touch my hair and stuff too. So I've had it. Even people, my family, technically family members now, right? Like, they've done it as well. So it's like, it's a thing. It's a constant thing, and it's quite exhausting. So seeing that and the way it was portrayed in the show as like kind of cute and endearing, like, oh, she's patting his head. It's like, ooh, yeah.
I think I instantly cringed when I watched that scene.
Yeah, I felt very uncomfortable, but like I just I was like, well, this is like the Japanese version of like, I guess tolerance. Like, oh, look, see, she's not afraid of him. She's touching his head. Like, I mean, that's what I feel like it is.
Oh
honestly.
my God.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what it seems like to me. Like, I'm just like, I don't know why else they needed that in there. But yeah, it was weird. And of course,
I would hope
foreman
not.
who I said here as xenophobic against the foreign workers. And the reason why I said xenophobic, I chose that specifically, was because even though, like, I would read it as racist, because, you know, I think it's racist, but, like, he never says any, like, racially specific things to them. It's more like just foreigners are bad, because, you know, foreigners are lazy, and foreigners don't speak Japanese well, and foreigners, blah, 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 blah. And there's never any, like, for example, black specific kind of slurs or insults, or like any like Brazilian, but in real life there are,
definitely,
you know? So it's like, yeah, it's true. Like, so that's the thing, it's a bit complicated, because it's like, yes,
maybe
it's
a bit
true
too
that
much.
I think in general Japanese people do have this thing where they're like, okay, you're not Japanese, and you are Japanese or you're not, and if you're not, then you're outside because you're not, and we see you as a different kind of thing or whatever. But there's also, you know, layers inside of that where, like, okay, if you're a white foreigner, you'll have certain things, whereas if you're a black foreigner, you'll have these kind of things. And to, like, not differentiate, especially Brazilian, like, I know here living in Nagoya, there's many Brazilian people, and I know there are Japanese people who have a lot to say about Brazilians. You know, they have a lot of opinions, and so, like, specifically about Brazilians. And so it's like, to have a worker who, like, to have a manager, like the factory manager, who is like so cartoonishly, like, you know, xenophobic, but then not say any like racial, like, I'm not saying I'm like, oh god, he needs to say a racial slur. I'm not saying like I wanted him. I'm not saying I wanted him to say a racial slur. I definitely didn't want him to say the N-word. But to pretend like that doesn't like, it kind, because this is the only representation, and they took race almost completely out of the discussion, it kind of rubs me the wrong way a little bit, because I know for me personally, I have had, you know, people say the N-word to me, like Japanese people, and so to have that not be included as like, oh, well, they're just foreigners, so that's it, and that's the only discrimination they'll get because they're foreigners, then it just feels like a, like kind of an erasure, I guess.
No, it
like,
absolutely is.
Yeah.
It felt like his lines were, you know, like, I have this general theory about the casting of these factory workers, is that they were looking out for any foreigners possible, and they just happened to find two black people and a Brazilian, but like, the lines felt like they were written to apply to every foreigner. Like, yes. We don't know who we're going to get, so we're going to make a very generic line in the script.
Yeah. I think that's what it was.
Yeah. But it is definitely unfortunate. Faith, I have a very terrible question I need to ask you, but it's more like to make sure that I understand the like context. So when you say people have said that word to you, is it in English or like the Japanese equivalent?
Oh my god! Word.
Okay.
God. I've had people. Yeah. It's usually the English word. Like, so they'll either say it in English or they'll say it like in Japanese, but like it's the same word,
right?
You know, like it's katakana. Like, yeah. No, I've never been called the other. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I've been so lucky as to never have heard that word in real life. I only heard it for the first time in a TV show from the 70s.
Oh god. Oh no. Well, okay. Oh no. Please let me know that one before, unless I would like to know what it is, I guess.
It's a magical girl series. It's
I was assuming
from 1970, and it was an episode that was about featuring a black character who was coming to Japan because he was tired of discrimination in the U.S. and then immediately, he almost immediately, like the first day he comes in, he gets called the Japanese equivalent of that word. It just is a lot.
Do they actually deal with that though? Like, do they actually? Like, do something?
It's very impressive, but it was also like we didn't need to use the word though. Like,
no. Like I'm saying, I don't want them to actually say the N-word. I'm not saying please put more slurs in your shows. Like, no, that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I just think that like to not have anything race specific.
Right.
Is kind of disservice to, like, I don't know, like, it just feels like it's just not accurate, and it's like, to pretend like Japanese people only see all foreigners as foreigners and that's it, and there's no distinction.
It's absolutely
at all.
not true. It's the thing.
Yeah, it's just not true. It's just not true. And so I just would like to have seen, especially because they had 2 black and a Brazilian, foreigners. Like, it would have been nice to see some. Like I said, I don't want to say slurs because every time I hear the N-word, it really like gets me.
Of
like,
course.
I feel it in my core. So I don't like hearing it, and I don't want to see it, but. It just felt like, it was just too generic to, like, really, like, I don't know. It just felt just way too generic to me. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It just felt too cartoon. It was too cartoonish.
It was too generic. It was too over the top,
and it was too generic.
Make an impact, I guess. Yeah. I mean, we've said this in the average viewer could be like, see, I'm not racist.
Yeah, exactly. He's like the real racist, right? It's like, well, I'm not like that guy. I'm not like saying foreigners suck, so I'm good. Like, I don't know. Like it's that's what it feels like. Yeah, definitely. He's to reassure Japanese audiences that you're not racist. You want to help. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just like. Oh my goodness. Yeah, pretty much. But and then Yumi kind of talked about this a little bit when you talked about having maybe a scene or something where like one of the black characters would like educate maybe Chuya or something about having a Confederate flag, like like thought thing. But like but I also there's a thing. It's like I'm glad the black people were there. I'm glad they got to be like important to the plot. I don't want to say useful, but important to the plot, and they, had lines, they could speak Japanese, they let them do, like, different things, and this is why I definitely think it wasn't, at first, specifically for black characters. I think they just, like, wanted any foreigners, and they probably just got these, 2 black people and, like, a Brazilian person, and they just went with it, I guess. There is, like, a kind of constant thing, especially in a lot of, like, I guess, quote-unquote, Western media, especially American media, where there's like a black character who's like teaching or like, mentoring like a non-black, especially white like character, and like teaching them the ways, especially of racism and stuff. Like, oh, this is how it is. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't. They have to educate them and teach them things. And there's kind of this burden that's put on black people, like, we have to teach them or they'll never know, and blah, blah, blah. And like, I kind of felt that vibe a little bit from this, because it's like the black people have to be there to like kind of facilitate these 2 Japanese boys, like, I guess, wokeness awakening. I don't know, like they have to like they need these black people to help rap at them so they can be like, oh yeah, we should stand up for rights now. Like it felt a little like, what's the word to describe it? It's like, I guess I just felt like, and also like the other character, what was it? Was it Azuma? Was that his name?
Oh, yeah.
I believe it's Azuma.
Yeah. He, I'm glad he was able to express himself, like, through rapping. Like, that's really cool. But it's like, like, rapping, of course, like, rap and hip-hop has always been, like, a tool for, like, the oppressed to use to, like, stand up for their rights and, like, talk about issues and things like that. But it just feels like sometimes the black people are kind of, like, the stepping stone for the other people to be like, all right, now we can stand up for ourselves too. And it's like, we still have issues as well that you didn't really mention in the show, but okay.
Yeah, it's absolutely a trope, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Okay.
Like, this is the gateway to becoming a true ally, or to achieve what you want in life. That is not related to this at all, but you gotta do this to get there. I don't know.
Yeah,
it has like, that vibe.
It tried. Yeah, it tried.
It tried.
Okay,
yes.
All right, Ayumi, I would like you to to talk about this.
Okay. Okay. I guess this was very interesting. This is also something that like so. We're going to talk about the green face incident from episode 3. So this one's very interesting because it's not just that it was like, it's not like a surprise from the show, mainly because this is literally the thumbnail for the episode when you go to watch it on Hulu.
Yes.
And you need to point that out. It is really wild that it's just like in your face. This is how much they don't realize this is a problem.
Yes.
So I think we had discussed it a little bit in part 1, but the kind of main thing about this episode was trying to help Chuya to keep his part-time job because he needs it to be able to support his mother and support his family. But, you know, he's not technically supposed to have a job. So there's this whole thing about, you know, like, there's the first thing about, like, reverse Halloween, but then there's this whole thing about the idea of, like, some kind of monster. It's kind of vaguely, like, Kappa-like, but, you know, that is just going around harassing people trying to give out sweets on reverse Halloween. And so Soda dresses up as this monster, and in so doing, like, the kappa are, you know, very green, so it would make sense to wear green and maybe paint your face green, but the way that they do this is very much in line with what blackface is like traditional minstrelsy blackface, which it doesn't have, like, a direct history in Japan exactly, but, like, blackface is a problem in Japan stemming from primarily, you know, the effect of Westerns, particularly American media.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, so, like, the fact, it's not just, like, painting your face green, that would not be a problem, but he wears this green afro wig that also has stuff inside it, which not only, it's like, it's not just that it's an afro wig, it's also, like, kind of playing into this stereotype that black people have dirty hair, which is, like, I can't believe that's still a thing in this year of our Lord, but it is. And there is, on top of that, like, with his makeup, you know, well, kappa have beaks, right? Yellow beaks.
Beaks, yeah.
So
in
order to depict
beak.
himself with a beak, he paints over his lips in yellow paint in a very minstrelsy sort of way. So it's just, like, it's all really bad. Like, I think they probably didn't realize what they were doing. In the same way that, like, clowns are also racist because they're based in blackface makeup. They just reverse the colors a little bit. But it is something that, like, is incredibly alarming and, like, is very recognizable to anyone who has looked at blackface for more than 2 seconds. So, definitely... It is definitely something to point out and, like, acknowledge and just be like, what the hell was this? So many things went wrong.
Like, yeah, because the thing is, they start the episode, or at least, they, like, Chuya talking about that monster that his mother would, like, threaten to, like, you know, I guess, like, if he didn't do what he's supposed to do, like, she'd be like, oh, this monster's gonna come, like, you know, come and get you, or whatever, like, if you don't, like, do what you're supposed to do, if you lie, or if you do whatever, like, if you do something wrong, this monster's supposed to come, so it's supposed to be the scary monster, or whatever, and that also kind of plays into the stereotype of black people being scary, and, like, you know, like, what's the most scariest thing you can think of? A black person.
Oh.
I when I first saw it, I was like, what in the fucking universe am I looking at?
Yeah. Again, the fact that it's a thumbnail for the episode, it's enough to be like, oh, this show is a mess. Okay.
Yes. At least you know. You're like, well, you see it through, like, the storytelling, the way they decided to tell the story, and then you see it through, like, other things, and you see that thumbnail, and you're like, oh, okay, this, total mess, they don't know what they're doing. They just don't know. Okay.
And
I mean, it's like they could have done anything, you know, because it was literally just a monster that his mom made up. It could have been anything, and they went with this. Like, it's just...
Yeah, he could have been a dinosaur.
That would have been so amazing. Like, put it in, like, you know, like, the full blow-up T-Rex costume.
Oh, yes! Oh, my God, that would have been funny, actually.
Right? Yes.
Yes, I would have been like, oh, my God, that's so cool, you know? But then he did this, and I was like, what is happening? And then he just did some weird, like yelling sounds. I don't know what he did, but it was strange. I was very confused. I was like, what is happening here? Why is this happening? And then the fact that it actually works, and the teacher's like, okay, fine, whatever. Like, you know, like,
she runs away screaming at the top of her lungs. She runs away screaming.
Yeah, I'm like, it's like obviously like a kid and like some makeup lady. Like, it's like, calm down.
Oh my God.
Like, I don't know. Like, it was so weird. Like, it was just like the fact that it actually worked. Like, too. Like, it's like, whoa. Like, I mean, I guess thankfully his brother came right on time, so she could just, like, I guess give up. But it was like, it was obviously a lie, and obviously just his friend, and making.
Well, that's the thing about his brother showing up at the end and her being like, "Oh, you're the one who works here, not your younger brother who goes to the high school," meaning that like they could have done none of this stuff and solved the problem just with the brother.
Yeah.
They didn't. None of this was necessary.
They just wanted to add the thing.
Yeah, I think they just wanted to do it. I think they thought it was funny or something. Like, I really don't know. Like, I have so many questions because it's like I expect this kind of stuff. Well, okay, maybe not the green like shit. I don't expect that. But like I expect something like no. I know. I don't know why. I didn't expect it. But like, you know, I don't usually expect green face in Japanese shows. Black face, on the other hand, maybe. Like, you know, it's like, I don't expect this, but like, it was just like really weird. It was a really weird choice. It's like, they obviously didn't have to do this. So I'm like wondering, because this, especially in a show where like, they're trying to talk about rights, and they did actually go out of their way to be like, okay, foreigners should be given rights and like should strike, and like if they're not being treated fairly. They even went to that extent, you know. And so I'm just like, for this kind of show that's trying to be like, you know, very like progressive and like, okay, you all have rights and you should like fight for them, or I mean, maybe not in like, you know, in a kind of more, I guess, toned down way, but still you should, you know, at least do something. It's kind of just weird that they made these very strange choices to like, you know, like perpetuate these like horrible like stereotypes and racist tropes anyway. Like, I don't know, like it's like, if it was a normal show, I would still be disappointed, but I'd be like, well, you know, this is the typical show, right? But this is like, they're trying to do good, you know.
I'm
they're trying
very
to, like,
tempted to make a joke that might be mean.
Yeah, sure.
So they're trying to be they have like this line of racist, horrible things that they can tolerate. So when they went like the non-racist direction, I guess, by including all these cool characters, they have to balance it out.
Oh no! It's like we went too far with the progression. It's like we put two black characters in there. That's too much. We have to wind back. Confederate flag and green face. Confederate flag and green face.
Yeah, that's because
Mayday.
it's kind of how I see it. I don't want to be like unnecessarily mean with the way I put it, but that's how I see it.
It's hilarious, though. I like that version, because it's like, they're like, oh no, we put two black people in a show, in a Japanese show. We gotta counteract it. Okay, Confederate flag, and green face. We've got to do it. We can't do black face because we'll get in trouble. But green face, we can do that.
Do you really think that they would get in trouble for blackface, though?
Honestly, I don't
honestly.
think so.
I mean, especially because we'll talk about this later. Especially because this show doesn't have English subtitles. I don't know. But like, you know, I do think if it had English subtitles and people could watch it, people might complain. But I don't know. Like, I know some shows have gotten backlash. You know, for example, the was it 2017 maybe? They did, I think, was it Downtown or something? Like, some comedian group did, like, blackface. Oh, they did, like, an Eddie Murphy, like, thing, like, comedy thing, and they, like, dressed up in blackface to, like, portray
that
Eddie
sounds
Murphy.
like something
and
they would do,
that did get some backlash. Yeah, that did get some backlash, and they did end up having to, like, apologize for it. So, I mean, I think it depends on, like, how... I think this show is not really on people's radar, honestly, like people who would care. So I don't think this show would get anything.
And Downtown is a group that, like, they became famous internationally over the internet because, like, the Silent Library was so popular that it became a show on MTV in the US.
Oh, really? It was on MTV? I didn't know that. Oh.
But it was not as funny because they couldn't get away with as much stuff. But
I see.
But yeah, you know, there are more people on their radar. So, like, they have in more recent years gotten in trouble for stuff like that. And also they've had to apologize. One of the guys did have to apologize for sexism I want to say a few years ago as well. He said some stuff about idols and also sex workers, like during the pandemic, like the beginning of the pandemic.
I
I don't know, but like the point being that, you know, those are comedians that are like very internationally known.
Yeah.
And I do agree that like if this show, you know, just in Japan had a blackface thing, I don't think there would be as much criticism.
No,
yeah.
I don't think so. No,
Yeah.
I agree. Unfortunately, I think you're right. I think because Downtown is so famous, like so internationally famous, they got backlash, and they did it on like one of the most, you know, famous shows, you know, in Japan, like for the New Year's, right? So like it was like on that show, and they were a famous group, and people were watching it on YouTube and stuff. People were watching that show like on YouTube, and so like it got like way more backlash. But this show, like I said, like I couldn't even find English subtitles, so I doubt anyone like is gonna say anything. Like I think even they did blackface, but maybe they knew, because they did do a progressive, like I'm saying it, like they did actually, like, you know, care about foreigners' rights for some reason. I don't know why, but they did. So I think they did know, probably deep down, okay, blackface bad, maybe we shouldn't do that. Probably
I would hope so. I don't know.
I hope so. I'm trying.
I want to believe. I want to believe. X-Files. I want to believe.
We shall have faith.
But it's like, yeah.
I mean,
because I literally had to explain why blackface was bad to someone like a month ago.
Yeah, that's true.
It's
no, I believe you. No,
yeah.
I believe you. I know. I've seen. Yeah, there's something in Nagoya actually. So they have these like tiles in like the center of Nagoya, like some area in Nagoya, and like the tiles for like the sidewalk. Some of them have an, I guess, quote unquote, international design for them. So they have, like, for example, like a Native American one. I think they have maybe some other people, and then they also have one that's like looks very much like, you know, a mammy kind of character. And like I took a photo of it. I will send it to you, I guess.
Sure.
You see it. But it's quite atrocious, and that's like in the city on the freaking tiles. You can't, like, I mean, no, if you're not looking, you'll miss it. But I just happened to look down, and I was like, what the is this? I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, I saw it, and I was just like, whoa. Like,
I'm scared, but also curious.
Oh, I'll send it to you. Like, it looks like literally like a mammy kind of caricature.
But yeah, moving on, representation of Asians, apart from ethnic Japanese people, I didn't really see any other Asians. I mean, you know, Asia is a very large area. Sometimes you can recognize the features of Asians from other parts. I'm Asian. I don't have to try not to be racist, but but I'm trying to explain in a way that doesn't sound condescending and is also informative. There is a belief that you cannot really tell East Asians apart, and I don't know. I mean, if you're talking about the culture, there is a difference, like a huge difference. And also the Koreans hate the Japanese,
with good reason.
and also the Chinese hate the Japanese.
I mean, they've got some good reasons.
Yes, but yeah, if there were other East Asian people in the show, I did not notice. They were not acknowledged.
Yes. Yeah, quite common in these shows. They usually don't.
Yeah,
they don't acknowledge them. I mean, even if the actor might have been maybe either full or mixed of like some other Asian descent, they probably would never mention it because it's not obvious.
Yeah, like even that guy that played Akira in Hanegari Dango, I didn't really.
He's actually Chinese Japanese, but they didn't mention that. I mean, they gave a nod to it in the movie, I think, because like he does speak in Chinese to I guess some of his underlings or whatever, like his mafia, like I guess people. But I guess he has ties to the Chinese mafia, of course. But And he can speak Chinese, so he can do it.
Of course.
But yeah, they never mentioned the show that like he is Chinese or that he has Chinese is of Chinese descent. Yeah, that's true. But yeah. But I do think it was a very missed opportunity, especially like working at a factory and like I was like, you couldn't get one other Asian character. I feel like I do think it was a missed opportunity because like especially they work at a factory. Like there are so many real life like Asian workers in factories in Japan. Like they could have had at least one non-Japanese Asian character acknowledged. Like I think there should have been a character and they should have been there. They could have been with the factory guys. Maybe they could have rapped and one of the black people could have not rapped. That would
that would have been
fun. Spice it up.
Yeah.
Ooh, want to know something fun? Well, I say fun, but it's more just like something that I only know through my like personal friendships. But a lot of my Lao, well, not a whole lot, but like quite a few of my Lao friends who like come to Japan. They get a fellowship. They come to get their masters in Japan. A lot of them, or their wives, because it's like a 2-year thing. Sometimes they bring their family. Either they themselves or their wives would like go to work at a factory because you don't really need to use Japanese there and you can earn money to buy groceries.
Oh, I see.
So yeah, I believe this is not unique to Lao people. I believe people from other parts of Asia that like are in more or less the same situation as my friends would probably choose to work at a factory.
Yeah, I knew some. I had Vietnamese friends when I lived in. I used to live in Chiba, and they worked at a factory in the nighttime. Like they did like the night shift, and so they work from like night to like morning, and they would sleep in most of the daytime usually. But yeah, they worked at factories, and I know some of them they were doing this kind of program where they were learning certain skills, and then they would like go back to their own country and make like a business or do like bring those skills back and like create something like a new business or just I guess help out at another company or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, to be honest, I don't know any factory workers, but where I live in Tochigi, most of the foreigners are Asian foreigners, primarily South Asian and Southeast Asian. And we have in a different city, not our city, but in a different city, we have a really like there's like a famous like university for like tech and engineering. So a lot of people go through there, and that's it's like a lot of foreigners come out of there as well. But locally, we have a lot of people who work in engineering and usually bring their families. So like I have we have some kids at our school, at the English school, that are non-Japanese Asian, and it is very interesting because like some of them there are certainly others who are like maybe young people who are here because of their families, and then they work in say a convenience store or something similar. We also have a lot of Chinese restaurants, so there are a lot of Chinese people who work at Chinese restaurants. So there are a lot of foreigners, and a lot of them are from Asia because we're right there. Like it makes sense.
Yeah. It's really close.
I do think it's interesting and probably important to point out that for some Japanese people, we don't count as Asian. Like it's I'm not sure if you've ever come across this.
Oh, I found that out. I found that out with teaching. Yeah, like just like when I would talk to people, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, Asia," and I'm like, "You mean like Japan?" And they're like, "Oh no, Asia," and I'm like,
right, and like
okay.
say just say like by default, like if you're saying like, oh, I'm going to an Asian restaurant, that's probably an Indian restaurant, maybe a Chinese restaurant, but like there are different what's it called, like just different images with different words that like, but that is a major thing for sure, that like mainland Asia and Japan are just two completely separate things to a lot of Japanese people.
Yes, that is very true. In my experience, that has been very true. They don't think they're Asian. They're just like, what? Huh?
I remember a conversation with a really nice Japanese lady. Like, she is genuinely very nice. But
I knew that was coming.
We were just like chatting about like traveling and stuff, and she was like, I'd like to go to Mount Everest one day. That's in Africa, right? And and her husband was like, what on earth are you talking about, lady?
Oh no.
So like I don't know if it's just like very bad geography education or
Oh, poor nice Japanese lady.
I still have to often teach people that Africa is not a country, so it is definitely
yes, and that's a thing everywhere, not even just
True.
Asia. Like
Oh,
even
yeah.
in America, like there are people like Egypt is not Africa, and they're like, oh, like Africa. I'm like,
What?
where in like when someone says Africa, my next question is where. Where in Africa? Can someone please tell me that? Because like almost always they don't. They're just like, oh, I went to Africa. I'm like, where? Like,
Yeah.
because there are so many countries in Africa.
yes,
It's such a
there's
huge
so many
continent.
countries, so many languages, so many cultures. Like it's just so diverse, and so it's like really weird when people are like, oh, I want to go to Africa or I like Africa, and I'm like, where? But where? Where? Name a country. Name a country.
Name a country and it can't be South Africa. Go.
Exactly. You fail if you say South Africa. Exactly. That should be the quiz. That's the quiz. Like, okay, name a country in Africa that's not South Africa. Go.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would fail that.
So, speaking of other representation, so in this one we do actually get, we don't get any other Asians, but we do get a Brazilian person. We do actually get one Brazilian guy. His name is Jiru in the show. And he is played by Miura Rodi, who is actually Japanese, Brazilian Japanese, I believe, and Russian also.
Yeah, I believe
Russian as well. Yeah,
Brazilian, Japanese, and Russian.
yes.
He's born
So-
in like Gifu, right?
Yeah, he's born. Well, actually, I have it down. I think in my notes somewhere. But yeah, we'll get back to that. But so. Yeah, so the character, Jiru, is a Brazilian immigrant who loves to rap, because every, I guess, foreign factory worker loves to rap in the show. And, yeah, so I do think, I think probably Brazilians probably have more of that kind of stereotype of, I guess, working at factories. I feel like maybe less so with at least African Americans, as far as I know. I don't know. Maybe it is a thing. I don't know. But, as far as I know, I haven't heard it. Whereas with Brazilians, I do hear that a lot more. Also, like I said before about when we talked about Black people, there's no Brazilian specific kind of, I guess, discriminatory things that the cartoonishly xenophobic factory manager says to Jiru at all. Which, like I said, I don't need to slur, but I'm just saying, there is specific stereotypes about
I
Brazilians.
do want to
that are
point out
different
one
from
thing that I think is important to
maybe.
keep in mind, because his name is Jiru. As far as I know, that's not a Brazilian name, but
Yes.
it is the second half of Brazil in Japanese. Because you say Burajiru
Really?
in
Oh,
Japanese,
yeah.
so it is Jiru. It's the second half.
That's true.
So it's like they're so lazy
Oh,
with naming
God,
the
you're
character
right.
that they just took the name of the country and took the
Oh
first two
my
letters
God.
out.
Oh my god. Oh my god. This makes me wonder even more now. They call Kofi coffee because they thought it was
Right.
Ghanaian or something. They were like, Ghana coffee.
Yes.
I don't know. I really wonder now. Oh my god. You're right. Yeah, they do say
Oh
Raji.
my
It's even in one of his raps.
It's probably shortened for Brazil.
It's
Oh no. They were so lazy they couldn't even let him just have a real name. I guess Grayson got a name.
Yeah.
He got a name. They gave him a
He-
name, a proper name.
It's like
I guess
I believe Grayson does not impact the group as much as Kofi.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kofi I would say is the main. Yeah, he's the one who's
Yeah.
mostly interacting.
So basically, the writers are like,
yeah.
okay, this dude gets a name that sounds like coffee, but he is the main member. This dude gets a real name, but he has no role.
But I feel like even though he has no role, he's kind of like the leader, though, because, like, he usually starts off the rapping. Like, he usually is, like, the first one to start for some reason. I think he's kind of the de facto, like, leader, even though he doesn't have, like, a big part. And I think Judo was kind of, like, just tagged on. And they're like, okay, we can't have 3 black people, so... like, let's put him in there. Like, that's what I feel like. You feel like
again,
he's, like,
the casting
like a
call was
tag-on
definitely
kind
for
of character.
foreigners.
It doesn't feel like...
Yeah.
Yes, it was just like foreigners. Anyone.
I'm just glad they
like,
didn't
like,
like make Jiru be named the first half of Burachiru.
No, God.
Well, to be fair, I think that's already been done in Dragon Ball, so they can't have that happen in more than one property.
Wait, what?
Oh God.
That is. Yes,
Dragon
there's a character in Dragon Ball, a little girl who's Vegeta's daughter, and her name is Bra.
Oh.
Yeah, brah. Yeah.
I don't want to say I'm grateful or happy, but the fact that there's no indigenous representation means that they don't get ridiculous names.
Oh no. That's true. It's like, yeah, there's none, but at least they didn't. It's like when we talked about the last series we talked about. Sometimes it's better to just not have representation. Sometimes it might be just better to not be there, than to mess it up really bad. Oh God, when they had like indigenous
if they want to rap,
as well, which actually, I mean,
who are we to stop them?
I guess. I don't know. It just seems like all the foreigners are just rapping for some reason. So I guess every foreigner would have to rap. Like, it's the law of the series is that every foreigner has to rap. So, oh my God, I actually want to see that show where they literally have a bunch of foreigners and they're all like from different places, but they all rap. Like, that's the one common thing. Okay. But yeah. So since there are like, because usually, in most, like I said before, in most shows, most Japanese shows, or most Asian dramas that we watch in general, foreigners don't usually have a very pivotal role in the shows. And so since this show actually has foreigners with actual roles, I mean, at least Kofi, like at least, that contribute significantly to the plot. And, the fact that the drama actually talks about discrimination against foreigners, like actually mentions it, I would like to discuss a little bit about the treatment of foreigners in Japan. So, yeah, usually foreigners are assumed to not speak any Japanese. And in the show, also, they are assumed to not speak Japanese, even though they were rapping in Japanese. And also this assumption that foreigners are always hugging all the time. These are kind of like some stereotypes of foreigners. This comes up more in like the special, but like, yeah, like, it's just like, well, all foreigners hug. And it's like, what do you mean by foreigner? Because there's a lot of different foreigners, but they obviously mean like, non-Asian foreigners. And it's like, okay, but like, which countries? It's just, yeah, stereotype. And then also being told that they're lazy and that they only deserve rights when they know Japanese well enough. So it's like, you only deserve rights when you can speak to me in Japanese as a Japanese person, but I would never treat you as a Japanese person. So
it's like, oh, you speak Japanese? Rights. Oh, you're like a Japanese person. You speak almost as good as a Japanese person, but you're not Japanese. Yeah.
But you'll never really be a Japanese person, and you'll never be like a Japanese person, Wathanya, because you don't have special Japanese blood. So it doesn't matter.
Flashback.
You'll never be treated well. Like, it's never gonna happen. But you should still aspire to it, because I said
when people like question my like ethnicity. Because like I'd be like speaking to them in Japanese, and they'd be like, "Are you sure you don't have Japanese blood?" And I'm like, "Excuse me."
That's wild, because I do have Japanese blood, and I get a lot of the. I don't get everything, but because I don't like look quote unquote Japanese enough to a lot of people, I definitely get a lot of like the microaggressions in my day-to-day life. But it is it's a lot sometimes. But it's always like And I think it's also especially difficult because people will hear, "Oh, your mother is Japanese, but you're American." And it's like, okay. And we'll definitely can get into a little bit more, of course, but like just the general for some Japanese people, the kind of image of what it means to be Japanese and the treatment thereof of like mixed Japanese people is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting because, like you said, you actually do have Japanese blood, but they're like, oh, but you're not really Japanese. But then Wathanya is like, not Japanese at all, has no Japanese blood, and they're like, but you speak Japanese too well to not have some Japanese in or whatever. And it's like,
I remember when I was in high school, I went on a trip to Japan with some classmates, and it was like for like a kids who took Japanese class kind of trip, but there was a day where like I was hanging out with one friend who was a mixed Native American and French friend, and another one who was Chinese. And throughout the day, a lot of Japanese people kept assuming that my Chinese friend was the Japanese one and would start talking to her first in Japanese. And she would look at me like, oh my God, help, what is happening? And that was like the whole day. And I would have to like jump in, and it was really awkward, like literally every time. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh yes. I've seen that in action. I've seen it like if I go with someone and I happen to have like a friend who's Asian, they will look only at that Asian friend. Like they will not even look at me. Like it's like I'm not even there. Like they'll just like talk to them, and then even if it's about my stuff. Yes. But yeah, also Gaijin Hunters, we already talked about Mari's mom. Yeah. Mari. Sorry, not Mari's mom. Mari. Yeah, Mari has huge Gaijin Hunter vibes. And for those of you who either haven't listened to our previous episode or forgot, a Gaijin Hunter is a Japanese person who like really loves foreigners, and usually only foreigners. And they look specifically for foreigners to date and do other things with.
For now, let's move on to the casting. We have kind of like talked about it a little bit earlier, but like roles for foreigner characters in Japanese media can be limited, as again, as we discussed. There's a lot of like perceptions, stereotypes, misconceptions, blatant racism.
Yeah. So you tag that on.
Yes. I'm very surprised you didn't write that.
Sorry. My bad.
No, it's okay. But yeah, like I guess the most progressive non-Japanese character that like non-ethnic Japanese character that I've seen in like Japanese dramas ever that was pointed out was, and Faith, you will love this, because I think the most progressive is the Black Chocolate Chef.
I'm sorry, what?
So our last episode that we actually released, Hanari Dango 2 Part 2, there was a black chocolate chef for one of the characters to teach her how to make chocolates for the main guy, and that was the most progressive character.
He gets to be a chef. You were the one that
black chef. Yes, that is good for us. That's not a stereotype. Like no one's like, oh yeah, those black chefs. That's good. I'll take it. I'll take it.
The food has to be chocolate, but yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. There's Yeah. It could have been something else, probably. With like a candy maker. I don't know, something similar, but that's very interesting. I think I haven't gotten to see a lot of dramas myself, but at least in the world of magical girls, and especially in the most kind of recent live action magical girls series, the Girls Heroine franchise has had some interesting hits and misses when it came to like casting of foreigners. So like the very first season had a half white, half Japanese like side character named Rudolph who would always
Oh.
speak in English, and everyone would treat it like he was speaking in Japanese.
Very,
And
very
then,
interesting.
which was interesting. It was a choice.
Aw.
He was adorable though. Like I was like, oh, it's like this is my son. He's so cute. But then the main bad guy of that season was played by a Thai actor, but he was never acknowledged as being Thai. Like I'm pretty sure he was Thai. But it was like I didn't realize until like I was listening carefully to his Japanese, and I noticed that he spoke with like an accent, and especially the way that he pronounced certain English words was more akin to like
That's how you know.
English, so I decided to look up the actor. Yeah, it was okay. He was okay. And I was like, oh, okay, this guy is actually not Japanese. That's interesting. And then the following year, they had a half black, half Japanese actress playing one of the villains, and then a half white, half Japanese actor playing another villain. And that was a little bit messy, but they were like purified by the end of the show. Like they became good. Like,
At least they gave him a
they
chance.
were originally
At least they
good
gave him a
people,
chance.
being bad, whatever. It's a magical girl story. So it was like it was a little better. And then by the third season, they had the main mentor character was a black and Japanese
Oh, wow.
actor.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow,
Oh.
that's progressive. I'm fascinated by that.
Yeah.
I see they're slowly inching towards having a main character. Like
No,
they're
Faith.
They're like
We had
inching.
this conversation, Faith. The only time
What?
when a black female character could be the main character is if there's like a zombie apocalypse.
Oh no!
Sorry, that was a bit of a I guess mean joke, but it was a reference to how in video games, the very first black female main character that I've ever seen in video games is in The Walking Dead, Clementine.
Yeah, and that's because there's a black character in The Walking Dead, a black female character in The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
It's not important, but I put a link in the chat to the character.
Oh, yeah.
thank you.
No, thank you. I would like to see these. Yeah, I would definitely like to see these. Like, just to see, honestly, especially the mentor character. That's really
is the one I
interesting.
linked to. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
his
I wanna
character
see that.
is
Definitely, thank you.
himbo, for sure. Like,
Oh,
but,
hey,
but,
hey.
yeah, he's very endearing, and I think that it is a step up for sure. Yeah.
Oh yes. That's an upgrade. That's definitely an upgrade. It's like the chocolate chef.
There's also a chocolate chef in this show, but he's not played by a yeah.
He's not black. He's not black. Okay. Because if he was black too, I'd be like, oh my god, like it's a thing.
It would be
It became a thing.
A fair stereotype and questionable at best, but
Oh, no.
yeah. But yeah, no, it's just this one character, but it's very funny because he has a brother who is played by a full Japanese actor, and they're just like, oh, we don't see the resemblance, and they're like, don't worry about it, it's fine, don't question it, it's cool. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So interesting. I need to watch some more like Magical Girl live action
It's fun.
series.
It's high camp, so it's a good time.
Yes, that's fun.
Speaking of that, like, modeling and acting opportunities in, like, the Japanese entertainment industry is also something that we could analyze. Like, I would assume it's very different for white foreigners. I don't want to say foreigners, like, visibly white people,
Sometimes they're not, but-
Yeah.
visibly black
Yes,
people,
yes.
and visibly Asian.
Would you say visibly?
Because it's the entertainment industry.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
They
Yeah,
they look
sometimes,
at your
yeah.
face and they go, "You're in this category."
Yeah, but the thing is, like, you know, I wonder, because I notice a lot of times when they have a foreign character, they usually don't have any other Asians because they're like, oh, well, they look like a Japanese person, so you wouldn't be. I guess they think you wouldn't be able to tell or something. I don't know, like, you know, a lot of times, and so sometimes they don't visually look different from Japanese people, but they are different. So it's visibly or not visibly.
Yeah. Before we move on to the rest of the representation in this episode, we would like to take this time to thank all of you for listening to our podcast. It really means a lot to us.
If you enjoy our show, please consider rating and reviewing us on your favorite podcast app.
It would really help our podcast reach a wider audience.
And we would also just love to hear your thoughts on our podcast. It will help us know what we're doing well and what we could improve. And also, it will make us feel less like speaking into the void.
So leave us a review today on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Accidental kiss. Now, back to the podcast. But depending on like how the entertainment industry classifies you,
yes.
I make it sound so dehumanizing. I don't want to do that. But it is dehumanizing.
It is.
Depending on how, I guess, either Japanese society or the entertainment industry views you. Like, your experience can be very different. As far as I know, it's harder for non-white models and actors to get roles or jobs. And, yes?
I think when it comes to acting, I guess it depends, like, also, like, yeah, I would say definitely white, like, especially modeling, white foreigners get, like, a pretty, big advantage. But, I think when it comes to, like, being actors in shows, like, if the like depending on the Japanese level, maybe other Asians might have a better chance. Maybe like I've seen like it depends. I guess like I guess on the Japanese level and like if for example they grew up in Japan or if their Japanese is really good, then they might have a better chance. But yeah, it depends. If they can pass as Japanese.
So it depends if they can pass. So they can be non-Japanese, but not too non-Japanese.
Just a Japanese, but Japanese.
Well, yes, I don't know if that's better or worse, but black and brown actors are usually portrayed as like villains, criminals, and or living in poverty. Even in this drama, all the foreigners are living basically in poverty.
Yeah, they're making 900 yen an hour.
Even Mao's family.
They're not living well.
Well, ish. I'm actually not sure about their financial situation. Yeah.
What does Mari do, actually? Does she have a job?
We don't know. It is a mystery, because we only ever see her at home.
Yes.
We only ever see her at home
and she's
and cooking.
Yeah, she's like cooking and stuff, but I never see her at a job. I think she, like, in the special, I think she does go out somewhere, but I don't know if that was...
Oh my god, she leaves the house, that's right.
But was it a job, or did she just leave? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a mystery.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, we don't know her financial situation, but I'm assuming probably not the best. That's just from what...
She lives in a very small house.
Yes.
Yeah, but it is a house.
That is true.
That's true.
It could be something that like was passed down.
So it's complex.
Yeah, that's true. Also, could be.
But yeah, back to the actors and models thing. Foreigner actors and models who were born and raised in Japan are like not really treated like that. Like what was his name? Miura Rodi. Born
in
Gifu, was it? Or Mie? I remember it's quite close to
Hold on.
Oh yeah. He was born in Toyama.
Toyama.
Yeah. I mean, he is like way more Japanese than like, for example, a Japanese American who moved to Japan. Not calling out names here.
Yeah.
I mean, he's he's definitely
born and raised in the culture
Japanese,
kind of way.
Like, he's definitely like culturally Japanese. Like, he's grown up here. Like, even if he does have Japanese Brazilian blood, I believe. But like, even if he didn't, like, if he grew up here, like, he definitely would have like a Japanese, more kind of Japanese mentality, like a Japanese, like.
I hope that the comment wasn't insensitive. I'm a bit tired.
No, I think it's fine. I think that it's important to like there's one of the things is that there's like a lot of like legal issues as well here that it's kind of hard to like get into like, so, you know, the first thing being that if you are born in Japan, you're not guaranteed Japanese citizenship if your parents are not Japanese. And then when it comes to Japanese diaspora, there is, and I think like the two biggest countries this affects, historically speaking, is Brazil and the US. Actually, also, I should say Canada as well, because Canada also had internment. You know, there's this thing where if you can't trace your family back to Japan, when you come back like several generations later to Japan, you can't legally be like Japanese right off the bat, and you can't use the kanji for your family name, even if you know that that's the kanji for your family.
Oh no!
You know, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Which is a big deal when, for example, your family has historically had all of their documentations destroyed or you know, lost property, etc., etc. So, you know, that is an issue that happens a lot. Like, I can't really speak to those kinds of, you know, generational things because I was someone who was born in Japan and was raised in the US and then came back. So like, you know, my experience of being a Japanese American is very different from someone who, say, you know, whose family has been in the US for generations. But yeah, there's a lot of complicated connections in terms of like how, you know, the government and therefore also society treats Japanese diaspora. So, you know, I would hope that Rodi Miura is like a Japanese citizen, but we don't know, even though he was born in Japan. That's not enough information to go off of. And like also his name as well, because I'm trying to think, this is a really weird example of this, but you can actually see a lot of variety of representation of different kinds of like adjacently Japanese people in Bachelorette Japan season 1, because they had which is actually very entertaining and has like the best possible ending for a Bachelorette series. But there is a lot of interesting representation. Like they have a Japanese American who was born and raised in the US but whose family is Japanese. They had a white guy who was born and raised in Hokkaido. I think his parents were ethnically his parents were Australian, I believe. But I probably would have forgotten because I almost never heard him speak English. They also had a Brazilian Japanese guy who used a Japanese last name, but like he was raised in a very Brazilian household. His mother doesn't speak any Japanese. It's clear like the Japanese blood comes from his father's side, but we don't really know his father's connection to Japan either. So yeah, it's very interesting.
Oh.
I mean, I know it's not a drama. I know it's reality TV.
Hey, we can bend the rules. Like, you know, we can.
Yeah,
it is very fascinating representation.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's the most representation I've ever heard of. Honestly,
there's a Chinese guy.
Wow, where are the dramas like this at? Where?
Oh,
the best part is the Chinese guy becomes the next Bachelor Japan.
Nice. That's so cool. I love that. That's okay. We are in the wrong industry, Wathanya. I think we need to change up the podcast.
Maybe that's why so many people watch reality TV.
Yes. Let's get into reality TV.
Yes.
Because it's more. Well, I mean, it's not really that real, but like it's a little more realistic.
There's a little bit more opportunity for diversity in reality TV.
True.
Like
that's
real
true.
life
Even in the
is
States, that's
diverse.
true, I think.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
But yeah, sadly, they're not really represented in media. This diversity is not represented in media, and like even other Asians are not really represented much in Japanese media. Like if they can pass as Japanese, they're like, what's the point?
I like the wording of that. I mean, it's sad, but like, yeah. I think that's it, honestly, because like, you know, I mean, I told, you know, of course we've talked about this before, and like, you know, I've told Ayumi, I think, as well, but like, it was so hard for us to find a show that was like half a character actually acknowledged as being half in the show, and the actor is also half. like that was so hard, like so hard. Okay, and so then last with kind of the foreign and actor and casting kind of experience. So how foreign cast members have been treated compared to the Japanese cast. So this is just something I noticed a little bit just looking on like different websites and stuff when I was trying to look up information about the show, because I was like, oh my god, there are 2 Black characters, I must find out like everything I can about them. And so I was just like looking up stuff on like IMBD. Oh god, I can't speak. What is it? IMBD? IMBD. Yes. And like just like different sites that I could find like just the character names and like different wikis and stuff that I usually use for dramas to look like up the actors' names and things like that for each character. And I've noticed that like a lot, like these foreign actors are not even included on the cast in a lot of these wikis. Like I looked the typical like wikis, and there were characters that were barely in the show, but because they were Japanese, they were included, but not the foreign actors, even though they had a bigger role. And like usually I understand, because like the foreigners don't have a big role. They're literally just there to be like, hi, I'm a foreigner, I'm speaking English, and then they leave. But like in this one, they actually like spoke in Japanese. They had like an influence on the plot quite a few times. They were there, they were reoccurring, and I couldn't find them on a lot of the wikis. Like I think I only could find them on the official like site, and I found Grayson on IMBD. He was on there because he's apparently been in some other movie or something, so I could find his actor pretty easily. But like, yeah, like it was really hard. So even characters like the sister, who's like barely in the show, she's got like a credit like in one of the wikis, but not the foreign actors. And also like on the website, even the official website where they actually show all the characters and they have these little cute blurbs about them, the foreign actors do not get a clickable blurb about the characters at all. Like like I'll have to show you the website. Maybe Ayumi, I don't know if you've seen it, but like
I've seen it.
You've seen it. Yeah. So that, like all the foreign actors don't have a little blurb. They don't.
They have a blurb for a character that doesn't appear in the show.
Yes. Oh, she's in the movie. But they don't have theirs. And so it was kind of weird because they did play a pretty significant role in the show, like definitely more than Virginia Woolf. And so it was a little upsetting that it was hard to find stuff on them. And even like I was able to luckily find their Instagram pages. So I could find out a little more information about them, but like it was still tough to find that. Even I found Grayson because he's actually been acted in other stuff, but I was able to find the person who played Kolfi through Grayson pretty much because he tagged him in like some post that he did. And so and so that's how I found the other ones. I also found the person who plays Jiddu as well through that. And so it was like I really had to dig to find these people. Like it was hard to find them on like the wikis and like the list. They just didn't really care.
It is tough, but I definitely want to follow them as well on the socials because I want to see what they are up to next. Definitely. You know, it's again very hard to get work when you're born in these groups. So it's like really great when we can see that happen, and hopefully there's more of that in the future. So. Like, you know, obviously I personally watch a lot more animated shows than live action ones, so like the conversation of representation gets a lot more muddled, but like so in recent years there have been a lot more. I mean it's also been the case before, but like there are more roles for characters who are foreign or mixed, but the actors aren't necessarily foreign or mixed. They just can speak the other language well, you know. You know, there's some voice actors who have been able to work for a long time because they can speak English fluently or French fluently or so on. And the same thing goes with like, there is actually a very interesting example of this is Love Live, which has recently, you know, they have Brazilian characters now, but they recently had added, first in the game and then in the main show, they had a Chinese character whose actress is not Chinese, but she, I think, partially grew up in a part of China, so she is fluent in Chinese. But then there's also another character who is half Chinese and half Japanese, and her voice actress is Chinese.
Interesting.
So that's really
interesting.
Yeah. But like, also they almost never talk about her Japanese-ness, if that makes sense. Like, we know that she is Japanese because she has said so, but like She's very heavily Chinese coded as a character. It's interesting. But yeah, so getting into the half representation or hafu representation in this series, I am going to use the term hafu for this just because this is kind of the main term that is usually used and is acceptable, but we can get into like what the various terms are in a little bit. But of course, our main character for this is Mao Machida, who is Japanese and American. We wouldn't know she's also American, except that it comes up in one episode of the special. I don't know how much it comes up in the movie because I haven't watched that yet. But we know that to be the case. And her actress, Serena Motola, is mixed Japanese and Italian American specifically. I think it says a lot that like we see this a lot with mixed white Japanese people is like, what kind of white are they? Which is very funny because for me, I don't have that. Like, I think technically a lot of the blood on my dad's side is stemming from the UK and the British Isles in general. But, you know, he grew up in the South. He's from Louisiana. And they've always just been white. So, like, there isn't any of
the
that.
US is like, you're white.
Right. But like she's Italian American, and there are other like mixed white and Japanese actors and performers out there where it's like what kind of white they are is like very heavily stressed. This is like okay, it really does not matter.
What white are you?
Because they don't usually play those people anyway. It's not like we know for a fact that Mao's father is Italian American.
No, they never mention not even in the movie. You see the picture, you don't know.
But yeah, so that is another thing. Like, we don't know anything about her father as far as how he is as a character. We don't even know like if he's alive. In
the show, no, you don't know.
Schrodinger, Mao's dad, and like his heritage does not seem to have any direct effect on Mao's character as far as like her everyday life and her cultural upbringing. She is, living with her Japanese mother. They live alone together. We don't see her like using English. Like, well, we could talk about the special more later, but like when she talks to when we see her in conversation with the white guy who we've realized is named Ian, they're having their whole conversation in Japanese.
Yeah.
And I do think it's very interesting because for me, I feel like this show, it's very much for Japanese people. And so it is like not trying to look at any sense of like realism or whatever. Like it would be very interesting if she could speak English. I don't actually even know if Serena Motola can speak English. I don't know. I've never heard her speak English.
I don't think she can. I think I looked up, I read an article. I think she's learning or she wants to learn, but I don't think she can.
Which is
that's what I remember
and
from the article.
That's another thing. It's like there's this assumption that we can. Another great example of this is one of my favorite performers, Avu Badazono from the band Queen Bee. She writes a lot of her music. Her lyrics are about like her personal life, not just as a she's Black and Japanese. I believe her her father is Black American. I don't actually know for sure. Her sister is also in the band as well, but she's a singer, so she writes most of the lyrics, and she has a song called Half. And the very first line of the song is, "I can't understand English." It's like, I love it so much. And so it's like, but that is a presumption of us. Like I happen to speak English and Japanese, but that's not necessarily the case. But yeah, so it's like this, and this is very clear with Mao, and also I guess if she can't speak English in real life, it's the case with Motola herself, is that like, there's this having this upbringing is very much like, what's it called, like her, like there for most people there is going to be a little bit of a mix of influence of culture, but it is possible that you're not it's not the case. Like I recently learned about a half Japanese actress, a Japanese and French actress who was big in the 70s, who was called Shelley at the time, and I don't know what she's doing these days, but she was raised entirely by her mother because her father was just not in her life. She didn't even know that she was half French until she was older, and it was like a whole thing where it's like, well, you're mixed, you're half, so like, is this gonna be like a big selling point in your idol career or whatever? So it is, it's really interesting. But in terms of Mao's representation, she was very clearly being ostracized for being hafu, but it's never explicitly stated to be that. It's mostly just talking about her hair.
But why is it different?
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting because it's not like all Hafu have different hair color.
Yeah, of course not. Yeah.
There are so many ways to look to be Hafu in terms of your appearance. But yeah, she is she is fair skinned and she has brown hair. She's not as visibly mixed as Jidu. Like if you look at her, especially with her in her school uniform and like just the way that she dresses and normally, or like how she presents herself, you can tell, oh, she is Japanese. And she's generally treated as just a Japanese character. In the whole original series, they don't really bring up the fact that she's Hafu. It's just like this thing that like, it's just like this unspoken thing. It's very interesting. And then the same thing with, we have the, the little back story, with the story from Tamogami Sensei about like the teacher and the student who had brown hair before. We never see that character's face in the flashback. So could be Hafu, could be just a fully Japanese person.
A fully Japanese person, with brown hair.
Because
they do exist. Like they do exist.
So, but then, like he might be Hafu, but we don't actually know. But assuming the case, he was bullied for his natural hair color, which leads him to commit suicide, or attempt to commit suicide. And so, like he is kind of playing into a stereotype, but it is true that like a lot of, like for both these characters, like a lot of Hafu are bullied for being Hafu, and it's very much, oh, you are different from us.
Like I want to sing. I'm sorry. It makes me want to sing the Pocahontas like Savage song.
You're no!
From us.
Oh my god!
So that's what I thought of immediately.
Oh no!
That means you can't be trusted.
Yeah, it's interesting. Oh
my god.
Yeah. So it's like this. It's this whole very complicated thing in terms of like how they're treated, and very much like with the foreign characters, and I think this is very much on purpose. The foreign characters are not given any explicitly like specific things. It's always a very generic idea of what foreigners are like as compared to like specifically something anti-Brazilian or anti-black. And so similarly, like the anti-Hafu stuff is not really clearly there in the same way that it could be. So it's interesting. And then as we already mentioned, Jidu's actor is biracial Japanese, or at least mixed Japanese. I don't know the exact percentages. It's not something that really even if I could look up that information, it's not relevant. But he is again more visibly mixed. I would say that my appearance is very similar to his in that like some people can figure out that I am Japanese, but for the most part, I'm more likely to not be treated as Japanese by Japanese people with two Japanese parents. And I do think it is significant and important to keep in mind that, Japanese Brazilians have a very particularly complicated relationship with mainland Japan compared to other Japanese diaspora. There's been a lot of history of trying to like kind of utilize that diaspora to bring back more workers, but still treat them like foreigners. There's a lot of writing about this. You can do your research, but it is a thing.
I have done the research into it, and it's a lot.
It's like even. Like, for example, like, I might say that visibly I might get treated the same as Jidu, but being someone who is half white American and Japanese, I have a very different experience of the world in Japanese society compared to Japanese Brazilian or other mixed Japanese people. And, again, like, just like with non-Japanese actors, like there is definitely a hierarchy of mixed Japanese people. So, you have to be like really, really something like super stellar, or I don't know, like just it's a lot to get attention. And like there's definitely the case of like people who are like non-white mixed Japanese, but pass for white and mixed Japanese. So there's Meiji, who is Iranian and Japanese.
Okay, yes.
Yeah. Though I think in more recent years, like, they've kind of added some other stuff to her bio. I don't know how accurate that is.
Oh, okay.
She also follows a Japanese nationalist on Twitter, so I'm not, like, super cool with, like, I'm not very aware of, like, her politics.
No, Meiji.
So there's that. But anyway, like she was my idol for a long time, but, like, you know, her story is like growing up in Japan and not even knowing her own heritage for a long time for her own safety because of, like, the anti-Iranian sentiment in Japan.
I see.
You know, there's a lot of stuff like that. And, you know, definitely you're going to see, like, even more or more specific kinds of bullying when it comes to someone who is half Japanese, half Korean, or half Japanese, half Chinese.
Yes.
I teach a few students who are, or I have taught students who are half Japanese and half other other Asian, you know. So I have a student who, when I first started teaching him, he was very upfront about his mother being Korean, but over time he has stopped mentioning that she is Korean and does not acknowledge that he himself is Korean. He kind of passes for full Japanese because of his name, because his mother is the one who, you know, is Korean. Like, his name looks Japanese and, like, 100% or whatever. And I also know of I had a student who was a North Korean defectee, and she had, you know, she like got into Japanese society. She changed her name, which is another thing about, like, being in Japan, is if you want to be a Japanese citizen, you must change your name, and that often erases your your actual ethnicity and etc. This is why it's very hard to get ethnic data in Japan. You know, her kids don't know that they're half Korean, and it's like she was comfortable talking to me about it, but, like, why do I know more than her kids do about their heritage?
No, that's totally a thing. Like, I know, like people in those kind of situations, or, like, even Japanese people who feel like they're kind of, like, out of the norm, they always feel comfortable telling me about their things, but they would never tell, like, another Japanese, like, they would never.
Right.
Yeah. Like,
yeah. So it was just, like, so heartbreaking to hear about. It's like, oh no, like,
so sad.
But it's, like, also, you know, she's doing it because she's afraid for their literal safety.
No, I don't blame her, but it's it's still just so sad. Oh.
Yeah.
It's so unfortunate.
So that's just like a thing that's unfortunate. Like, you know, they can quote unquote blend in. Like, I can't go around trying to pretend like I don't have a foreign parent. It's just not going to happen. But I know that, you know, for the people for whom they can, like, I would never blame them for doing so, because it is, like, just absolutely reasonable, or, like, well, not reasonable. It's unfortunate, but it is just, like, you know, it's survival.
Yes. No, I
society,
totally understand it. I mean, same thing happened in the States. Like, if you were black and could pass as white, especially back in the day, you would. Oh, yeah. Because, like, that was the better way to live. Like, you know, you didn't have to worry about, like, being lynched or, like, you know, having horrible things happen to you. So it's, I totally get that sentiment. Like, I definitely get it, but it's just so sad because it's like, you know, people look at, like, Japanese media and they look at, like, Japan and they're like, oh, it's so, like, homogeneous and, like, everyone's the same and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, there's all these people who are different, but they just can't say they are, because then they'll be, like, literally just stamped out. Like, you know, they just will, like, you know, be harassed, and, like, you know, it's just so bad. And that's why it seems like it's, like, you know, like that, because people who are different just don't talk about it.
Yep. It's all about not standing out.
Yes.
It's very unfortunate. Yeah. So to get to the different words. So as I mentioned before, I use the word hafu because that's, like, the main word that people tend to use. But this is, of course, referencing someone who has one Japanese parent who's quote unquote full, and then one non-Japanese parent. So, of course, that's very limiting because there are a lot of different ways to be mixed. So generally, like, the most common words for people who have one Japanese parent and one non-Japanese parent are hafu, which is half, and dabu, which is double. Then more generally, we have mixu, which is mix, konketsu, which literally means mixed blood. And then for people who have a half Japanese parent and a Japanese parent, or a half Japanese parent and a non-Japanese parent, it really literally goes both ways.
Wow, that's confusing.
Very confusing. I remember doing research about this because I was like, when I have kids, what is society going to call them? So they get called either way, quota or quarter. So literally all of these words that have been adopted into Japanese were coined by non-mixed parents of mixed children or other surrounding society. Like literally the oldest video that we have of me as a baby has someone calling me hafu in it. I'm literally like a child crawling on the ground.
Oh no.
And it was for like, my dad used to be in a jazz fusion cover band. Don't ask. But one of his bandmates was talking about how cute I was and called me hafu in the video. So literally the oldest video we have of me, I get called this word. And, you know, over time, like, so because of that and like his experience with it, my dad hates the word hafu, and he's always like, you're not half, you're double. And I'm like, that's up for me to decide how I feel about myself. But thanks, Dad. Thanks, white father.
Well, he's trying.
He is trying. I love him very much. But yeah. So it is, you know, it is this interesting thing where it's like, of course, because, you know, this starts happening from the time we're born, like the terms and everything, the discussions happen before we're really able to even understand what the heck is going on. And again, you know, with the word quarter, you can be a quarter Japanese and 3/4 non-Japanese, or 3/4 Japanese and 1/4 non-Japanese. But that being said, the former is usually assumed. And then
move on. Can I just mention that like konketsu, like mixed blood, sounds like something that like how do you pronounce it?
Draco, yeah,
would come up with. Draco.
I don't tend to try to talk about that series, especially because I mean, for even before we all knew that J.K. Rowling was a TERF, you know, she really, really messed up with her ideas of what the rest of the Wizarding World schools would be like. So her idea was all of Asia is going to go to one magic school in Japan because we all speak the same language. And and the name of the school is Maho Tokoro, or literally magic place. So,
so creative.
You're right. So, you know, I think it's interesting because, yes, the use of blood is not as common in English as it used to be. I think for me, konketsu doesn't sound so bad because I'm still used to hearing that, like, we talk about blood equaling DNA, right? Because this is like, these terminologies come from long before we understood what DNA was. But, you know, it's so for me, I don't mind the word, and it's generally, again, used, I usually see it used in reference to people that like, oh, we know they're mixed. We don't know what the mix is. That information is not public. So that's usually the context for when we see it. Yeah, but like largely hafu w are still the words that are commonly used, and then quota if it's, again, if you know the information, which people love to know the data, I guess, the percentages. Yeah.
Ooh, it's giving me flashbacks of something not very pleasant.
Yes.
No, like when we say, oh, people love to know the data, I just think of like, I guess, strange people who are ask trans people about their genitals.
Absolutely. I think that I mean, I am cis, so I could be overstepping here, but I do feel that there's not a connection to people just really big in other people's business. Yeah. But yeah. And, you know, these are all words in Japanese, so I do want to also mention, because, again, there are generations of diaspora outside of Japan. So a lot of mixed Japanese diaspora misappropriate the word hapa. Please don't do this. If you're listening and you use this word, please stop using this word unless you are mixed Hawaiian, because that is a Hawaiian word specifically. Unfortunately, for generations it has been misappropriated at this point, you know, by lots of other mixed Hawaiians and not mixed, I should say mixed Asians. Yes, by mixed Asians. So like I've heard people talk about like, well, my parents use hapa, so I use hapa or whatever. And it's like, it's very unfortunate because it's like, I understand wanting to find a word that is generally for half Asians, but because there isn't really like a true full sense of like Asian as a collective, as much as we'd like to think there is one, like there's no word for that, you know. So yes, hapa is a word for mixed Hawaiian people. So if you're not mixed Hawaiian, please don't use it. Any case, you know, so that is unfortunately something that has already been happening for a long time. And some people who are a quarter Japanese are referred to by their hafu parents as kwafu or kwapa. I've talked to like friends who are a quarter Japanese who are like adults now. They hate this word. So I don't know if these kids are gonna keep, but again, this is like the hafu parents are giving the word to their kids, just like, you know, so yeah, but I have seen, because I'm in, you know, like Facebook groups and stuff for like hafu like community. That's how I kind of pick up a lot of these things, and it's always like, here's my kwafu baby, and I'm like, please, that sounds like a bad word to me.
Yeah,
like,
that does not sound. I mean, you know, not trying to diss them, but like, yeah, it sounded, when I saw that, I was like, whoa, that sounds very strange.
Yeah. But yeah, and then finally, just to get into the, you know, general representation of hafu characters in Japanese media. So there, you know, again, are lots of different things that can go wrong. So they're often coded as foreign or other, with their exact heritage not mentioned or just being irrelevant. If they're done positively, it's usually in the sense that they are otherworldly. So good example in recent years is Anatsuchiya, who in the movie Sakuran, she's playing a character who is supposedly full Japanese, but she is treated as looking so different, like there's something about her, you know. Ayumi Nakajo, who does sometimes get to play half Japanese characters. She's the one in Nisekoi, and I always tout that movie, but most of her roles, she's not playing half the characters. But it is, again, like that kind of same thing. Sometimes even literally otherworldly. And then finally, again, Shelley in Kometo-san from 1978, like I mentioned before. So she played an alien. The main character is also an alien, so that part's not super weird. But she plays an alien, and it's like she's the first other alien that we meet in the series, and she's like especially strange. Yeah. So I don't know. So you know, that's like the same kind of thing. It's just like, again, like they're so different, like that they're not even human. You know, in the kind of context of this general society, with most of the characters being Japanese. Yeah, and then, you know, there are tons of cases of non-mixed Japanese people playing mixed Japanese characters, as you mentioned. This is especially the case in voice acting, but it's still also in live action. It happens. Yeah. So, of course, there's this literal erasure of people who could be getting these roles that are actually these mixes and so on. Characters often use an extraneous amount of English or another language in their daily speech, even if it renders them incomprehensible. So like I mentioned in the other show, the Girls' Heroine series, they have the character who only spoke in English, but everyone talked back to him as if he had just said the phrase in Japanese.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's done for comedic effect, and he is adorable, but it's still really weird because there are ways to like show, like, it's great representation to have a child who is hafu in a series like that, but like not acting like a realistic another Japanese kid.
Yeah, you know? It's so strange, but I guess I'm not surprised. I mean, because sometimes they'll, not with like kid characters, but I know sometimes in American media too, they'll have a character who, like, for example, only speaks in Japanese, and like they're just, everyone understands them, even though, or maybe they don't understand them, but they're just always speaking in Japanese and they're just there.
That's
and
true.
It's like, why?
Yeah, there was a lot of, I think, Adventure Time had a lot of
there was a
discussion
Korean.
there was the
the
Lady Rainicorn spoke in Korean, but Jake, the dog, who was her boyfriend, could
Yeah.
understand her. Yeah. Adventure Time was a lovely series, but there are some things where I was like, what's going on here? This is an interesting way to get Korean representation. But yes, so, you know, it's often the case that their being mixed is a focal point of the entire character, like everything about them is related to them being mixed. I do feel like this is also the case for Mao in a lot of ways. And there's often like there's not enough depth with it. Like they don't go into like realistic things, or again, like they don't really talk about, say, the other ancestry or whatever. Because like whatever kind of, and again, I'm generalizing that their characters are mostly Hafu, but of course they don't have to be. Like this kind of, these tropes definitely play into like other kinds of mixed Japanese people, but it's like most of the time they're Hafu and most of the time they're half white and Japanese. Yeah. So their other ancestry is either overemphasized to the point of being a foreigner or underemphasized. So it's like, oh, you're basically just Japanese. And again, you know, Mao falls under the latter in this case.
Got rid of the father just so she could be that way. They're like, well, we can't have the father being there. Then she would speak English all the time, so we can't have that. So we gotta get rid of him.
Well, that's the thing is that, like, I know of, you know, I know there are definitely parents who don't use their native language with their Japanese
definitely.
child, so.
I know some Hafu and like quota, like people who they have like, you know, a parent who is not Japanese, but that parent can speak Japanese. And so they speak to them in Japanese at the home. And so they also speak Japanese. They don't speak any English or whatever their parents' native language is. They don't speak it. And that could totally be the case for Mao, but instead they're just like, no. And we don't have any indication that Mari speaks English either, really. So it's like, what did the father speak? Like, who knows? Like,
yeah. Like my father can speak Japanese, and I didn't start speaking English until we moved to the U.S.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the other thing about that is like if they're treated as a foreigner, they're also often depicted as being completely clueless about Japanese culture and customs.
Even though they grew up in Japan.
Yeah, like they act like they just arrived in Japan.
Even if they were born there and raised there. Like,
exactly.
That's just like unrealistic, because I know kids who are not Japanese, like they're not legally Japanese, but they have two foreign parents, but they were born here and they're going to school here and they act just as Japanese as any of the other kids because that's their culture. Like that's what they grew up learning.
Yeah. So it's like this gender representation, you know, again, it's just very frustrating. And getting into like what this means for actual roles and opportunities for Hafu, in particular white Hafu or a quarter Japanese people versus Black or otherwise other Asian. Like just basically it's like there's the stuff for white Hafu and there's stuff for everyone else. But yeah, so because white and Japanese is the quote unquote default mix, being either white and Japanese or passing for white and Japanese is really, really great. So I already mentioned Meiji, who, as far as I know, like she might have some white ancestry, but it's like not clear. But the other one I wanted to mention, which is really interesting, is Kureya Masta, and so she's an actress and an idol. She's also from the Girls Heroine franchise. She was in the second season, and then she came back for the fifth season that just ended. But she looks like she could be mixed, and no one knows if she's mixed or not. It's like a common question about her. It's like if you search up her name, like Masta Kureya, it's gonna come up like, is she half? Like, it's very interesting because, like, I don't know. She could be, but she could also not be, and just be like kind of using that ambiguity to get those roles, if that makes sense. Yeah, and so, you know, if you're a Black and Japanese mixed person, you're more likely to be foreign coded and more likely to get like negative roles or villain roles, like I mentioned. Plus, you know, they get the same foreign coded treatment. plus anti-blackness. So,
yeah,
like,
yay!
I don't need to. Oh, yay! I don't need to go into like what all that means. You already got into that, Faith. So, all the same things that happen to Black actors who are not Japanese, they do also happen to Black and Japanese actors. So, like I mentioned, Maji Maji Pures, which was the second Girls Heroine franchise, they had one non-mixed Japanese actor, a white Japanese actor, and a Black Japanese actress. Yes. They all had black-coated hairstyles as well. So even the white Japanese actor and the non-mixed actor had a black-coated hairstyle. Yeah, it's
are they saying it's evil? Like, are you saying the hairstyle is bad? Like, it's an evil hairstyle? Oh my God, is that why the monster, like the green face monster, also had an afro? Is it just evil? Is black hair evil?
It's a possibility.
Wow.
That's like very, this internalized anti-blackness, and they might not even realize.
Just like, evil people. Yes, black hair, evil.
And a lot of the things that happen to Black and Japanese people or actors can also extend to other mixed Japanese people with darker skin tones, such as, Southeast Asian and Japanese mixed people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I can't talk... I don't know any specific examples, but I have seen it, and I've also talked to South Asian Japanese mixed people who have when they've told me about their experience with police, it sounds very familiar.
Yeah, it's the same for Southeast Asian, like, full Southeast Asians, like, fully forward Southeast Asians as well. Like, I've heard a lot of, one of the people I'm talking about, Wathanya, one of our friends, he's experienced a lot of, being stopped by the police, being harassed by the police, like, just for just being there, honestly. Like, just, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So, and meanwhile, I am white and Japanese. I have never had a single encounter with police in my life.
That's nice.
In the US or in Japan. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, so I know, it's hard to imagine. Yeah, I mean, I did technically have a slight encounter with police regarding, but that was more like regarding someone who had assaulted me.
Okay.
Got in trouble with police, and they wanted to contact me about it.
Oh, well, yeah, that's very different.
Very different situation. That was more about me being a woman in Japan.
They were doing their job. That's good. Doing the job they should be doing.
I don't know if they were doing their job because they... no. They were supposed to contact me, and they...
they never told you what happened. No. Never mind. Well, I was going to give them something.
I knew what happened to the guy. Okay. So, finally, for other Japanese half-life who are Japanese and other East Asian mixed, they can potentially pass for non-mixed Japanese, much like their Zainichi counterparts. So, Zainichi are people who are living in Japan and are socially Japanese but ethnically completely not Japanese. So I guess I want to say the most famous example of a Zainichi in Japan right now is Verbal, the rapper, who famously identifies as Japanese, but he is ethnically Korean. Yeah, so different families take different approaches, like I mentioned, to this advantage, quote unquote, of like being able to hide your identity. Because of the continued potential for bullying and other kinds of mistreatment. And a lot of, and when it comes to show business, a lot of these people are like just hidden in plain sight. But usually if it's found out about, then they will get a lot of negative feedback. So this is where I have to mention the worst example of this was Hana Kimura, who was a wrestler, and she was becoming famous for being on Terrace House, but because she was half Thai, I want to say, she experienced so much bullying from people who just hated that she was on the show, or were just generally treated her terribly to the point, and just gave her death threats and so on. So she eventually ended up ending her own life after all that. So it was just generally a very heartbreaking situation.
And it was just... it was a mess. Like, it was, wow. Yeah, awful. So sad.
Yep.
Oh. Yeah, I knew about Terrace House because that was one of the few Japanese reality shows that I watched. Not that season, but I watched
Yeah.
like another season. I think they were in Hawaii or something. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, when I heard about that, I was like, ooh, that's, yeah. Well, it's a, very unfortunate thing and very sad note. But I wanted to just add this little thing about allyship just because, like I said, I think that even though this drama fails at a lot of things, it does at least attempt to show allyship, I think, at least through the, like I mentioned, through the Inoue character, who is one of the workers, like I think in charge of like the foreign workers at the factory. He does stand up for the foreigners. He does take their side, like when, other Japanese people are like, oh, you should, tell them to stop doing this or stop, I guess rapping at me, I guess. And he's just like, no, I'm gonna rap too. Like, and he's just like very much in solidarity with the foreign workers. And, I feel like that's a pretty good representation of allyship. And even with like, I would say the other students as well, like they all kind of, and even the teacher, Mori sensei, like they all work together to like kind of help break the rules, like in a more kind of like, I would say more kind of subtle, or I said silent resistance, but I guess like, kind of like more subtle than like, I guess we would be used to more so in the West, I guess, quote unquote. But like, they do join in solidarity. They do help each other out. And that is, yeah, they do do the stuff. Yeah, they do some stuff. They do things. Do they actually change any of the rules? No. But they tried.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's a good thing. And I'm glad my next section is not as extensive.
Are you glad? This is a good thing?
Well, no, it's not.
Yeah,
but I don't have to go through too much, basically. So, sexuality and homo/transphobia in the series is basically non-existent. And it's not just homo/transphobia. The sexuality is also non-existent.
Yes, what sexuality? There is none.
There is none, no. Except Sora when he's like, Mao is beautiful. And that's
and
like
now
basically
I'm going to
it.
become a social activist.
Yeah. Even like the world, this drama universe is so cisgender heteronormative that like it's really hard to imagine anyone not being straight. Except maybe Mori sensei who's asexual.
He's an ace icon.
But then we can argue
ace icon.
Then we can argue that we can argue that everyone except that thirsty teacher and Sora, like except those two people, everyone is asexual.
It could be, Mao could be asexual. We don't know.
Yeah,
we have no idea.
Yeah, like I don't know.
Yeah, we really don't know. I just know she's not. We just know that she's not interested in Sora. That's all we know.
Yeah, like her answer, her response to Sora asking her out on a date is so devastating they decided not to add it to the drama.
They cut it out. It was like, no.
Yep.
I mean, and even the special,
she's like, nope.
She's not like, oh, like I like it. Like there's nothing. There's nothing there. It's just Sora. It's just him, like, by himself. So, yeah, who knows? But okay, now to move on to the disability and mental health section, which does have some things. We do have quite a few things here. So physical disabilities. So actually, as we mentioned before, the character Azuma in the show has a speech condition. So he often stutters when he talks. And also the real life actor / rapper, Daruma, also has a stutter. So yeah, it was pretty nice. So it was a very, and the situation in the drama where like he couldn't really speak well, but learned how to communicate through rapping is also very similar to his real life experience. Like, so I thought that was nice that they added that, and it worked out well because it was based on a real person's experience. Yeah, he actually appeared on like a NHK show, on a variety show, And
it has such an interesting name.
Yeah. I think I've seen it before, maybe. It sounds familiar.
The varieties of... I guess you can translate the title of the show as different data about the various disabled people. I really don't know how to translate it. The Japanese always have like a way of naming their shows and movies. Is all I'm gonna say about this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, Wathanya, the fact that they have the show, I'm just like, wow, okay, that's good. That's good they have a show. And that this kid was able to get this opportunity and that he was able to share his story. So I'm glad. This is the good representation, Wathanya. This is the good.
Yes, it is a good representation. I genuinely think it's a good representation. However, like, this show doesn't have any subtitles.
Like at all.
In English or Japanese. Not even on Netflix.
No. Well,
except the movie.
It's because they don't have the show on Netflix. They don't have the TV show. They don't have the... Yeah, it's only on Hulu, and Hulu doesn't have any subtitles for this show.
I don't use a lot of Hulu, so I don't know how much Hulu has subtitles.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, I don't know. I know some other... that's the thing. I don't know how much they have subtitles for, like, actual, like, Japanese show in Japanese. Like, I've only seen, like, Japanese subtitles for, like, you know, for example, American show or something. So, yeah, they might just not do subtitles, which is also a problem. But, but still. So, yeah, no subs.
Yeah, like, not having subtitles... Like, and this isn't just me speaking as someone who loves subtitles. I just enjoy having subtitles because, you know, like, mishearing is a thing, and I like to know exactly what the actors are saying. But, like, more importantly, having no subtitles makes the show, like, inaccessible to those who are deaf or hard of hearing. And also to, like, an international audience if you don't have subtitles that people who don't speak that language know.
Yeah.
And, like, it's not like I want every single show to have every single language, to have subtitles in every single language ever. Because, like, we have automated captions on YouTube for that. And it's pretty shitty.
But it's really close enough, or, you know, there's, like, like, it's not perfect, but you can use machine translations for stuff sometimes.
And it's better than nothing. Like, absolutely nothing, which this show has given us.
In more ways
than one. Yeah, because even if they had just had Japanese subtitles, that would have helped me a lot. Because, like, it was just so hard to pick up on things they were saying. I would just be like, I would have to stop and then go back. Wait a minute, what? What
and especially... And this is something I've noticed in both the... Who was it? What's his face? Sora and Chuya. Yeah, both of them don't open their mouths enough.
They're very mumblecore,
No, physically. Yeah.
It would be very hard to read their speech, for sure. Yeah.
Yes. It's really hard. It was really hard. Like,
it's
even my husband sometimes had to go back and listen again. Like, I would tell... Because I'd be like... Can you tell me what this is? I don't know what they're saying. And then, like, he'd go back and be like, wait, play it again. Like, because, like, they were stumbling.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Like, I thought they were, like, what was it? Janice?
Janice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, aren't they supposed to, like, be, like, idols or something?
Yeah, they are.
Oh, Johnny's, yeah.
And that would mean
Johnny's. Okay, I thought you meant... I was like, Janice? I thought you meant Janice from, like, what is it? The Good Place or something. I was like, what?
No, that's Janet.
Oh, Janet. You're right. That's Janet. Sorry. Yeah, no. Johnny's. They're Johnny's.
Johnny's. Sorry. Yes. Again, I don't care about them enough.
It's fine.
But, like, I thought idols were supposed to sing.
Yeah.
And...
They do.
Ayumi, do you sing?
Yeah, they're idols. They do sing. I think It's also because they are acting, so I do think they are in character, but maybe a little bit too much so.
Yeah.
I don't know whether they're
maybe
good
they're doing
actors or like or not. It's very hard to tell because I this is all I've ever seen either of them in. But
I mean, I've, you know, like, of course, you know, Japanese acting, like, styles are quite different from, I would say, Western ones. But, like, I would say they're not the best actors from my experience. They're just watching a lot of dramas and, like, just, also just, I don't know. But I from what I've seen, but, that might just be me, though.
I was just also thinking if they're supposed to be idols, they would be singers. And as I understand, without opening your mouth, you would not be able to sing. But yeah, that's just.
Oh my god, you really went technical there. Okay, yeah, I think they just were probably in character.
I take voice acting lessons like at like a Japanese voice acting schools, and like literally at every single like lesson, the instructor's like, "Open your mouths."
But that's for anime. That's for like or voice acting. That's voice acting, Wathanya. Like real acting, you can mumble.
A little different. Yeah, voice acting it's you know, cartoonish, literally. So there are certain different expectations. So I'm very curious about your experience with that. I think it's like. Yeah, I mean, yes, the characters themselves are not idols. The actors are idols. So. There are, you know, different people have different places. I don't know, like, I have never seen any Johnny's Idols who did acting in something where they had to sing also. They usually are, like, actually trying to act.
True. That's true. I've never seen that either, and I've watched quite a few Johnny's like acting, like
I've only seen a handful, roles. But it's so far not been that. So
yeah, that's true. They usually don't sing. I mean, maybe they'll sing the song, like the theme song for the show, but like they won't sing in character, like in the show, like usually, ever. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I think they were just trying to be like, you know, mumbling, you know, high school boys or whatever. I think that's just that's what they were going for, and they did it. They did that fine. They did that very well. I could barely understand, so yes, they did a great job.
Maybe too good a job, yes.
That. Yeah, it's too good a job.
Too good, yeah. A bit too good.
But yeah, it would have been nice to have some subtitles, I think, just in general. Any subtitles, honestly. Now we'll move on. Mental health.
Yeah, because throughout the whole show, I had been thinking about, like, how, like, Mao would, like, probably be scarred or, like, made into thinking there's something inherently wrong with her that needs to be changed or hidden. Because, like in the beginning, she was like, I'm gonna go to school without dyeing my hair, because that's how my hair is supposed to look, and I'm a high schooler, I don't care. But she was basically bullied into changing the color of her hair, and she did give in. And she did sacrifice that part of her, the color of her hair, to go to school. And, like, high school isn't even mandatory.
That's something, you know, but in the special, her mother reminds her all the time, like, you don't have to go to school if you don't want to. It's fine. But she wants to go to school. Again, this is... we'll probably talk more about this later with the special. But, like, in general, we get a lot more information about, like, what she's actually thinking from there. And, you know, she does really wants to be a part of the school. She doesn't want to stand out, you know. And so, like, if it wasn't a problem, of course, it would make things easier for her. Like, there's this whole thing about her being bullied for her hair. Is the idea. It's like, if you go to school with brown hair, you're going to get bullied. And that's the excuse, is the story of the boy from before. But when she gets comments on her hair, it's because she's breaking the rules by having that hair, not because her hair is brown. So it's like this constant. It's like it's very much what's it called? Like it doesn't really make sense. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, I guess. Right? It's like, well, if you have this hair, you're gonna get bullied, but it's like because it's a rule, not because of the hair color. You know.
Yeah.
Let's see. Maybe I should watch the special. I don't know. I don't want to download Hulu though.
I mean, you can use mine. I got it for this drama, and then I watched Handmaid's Tale. Because I hadn't watched it.
Handmaid's Tale.
Yes, because it was on Hulu. But because I bought.
Are you also watching A Prophecy, Faith?
What is that? What?
Sorry, that was a bad joke.
Oh, okay.
You know, the current situation in the States.
Indeed.
Handmaid's Tale.
Oh yeah, definitely. Also, the Chuya's broccoli kappa monster might be some kind of trauma because his mother would always bring it up every time he did something bad, like, oh, I'm gonna get the kappa monster to come get you or whatever, you know, which I really don't think that's something parents should like do to the kids.
There's like a popular meme about someone who is doing that with their kids where like if the kids don't clean up, then the scary person in like this full bodysuit that has like a leopard print or whatever will come in to clean up, and the kids are terrified of that person. It's their mother in a costume, but like it's so it's like but like you see this photo of like this woman in this like full body suit that's like looks like almost like this kind of weird humanoid cat thing vacuuming, and the kids look like they think they're going to die, and it's like, hey, if you clean up, you won't see the monster. And it's like, oh no, those kids have so much trauma. They're gonna have so much therapy in the future.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my god. Why do people think that's a good idea to do? Like, I don't understand.
That's a horrible idea.
It's traumatizing. Like, and then we got this horrible green face because of it. Like,
maybe the wig was supposed to be broccoli.
Yeah, that's what I think it was supposed to be, but the thing is, it still looks like it's an afro wig, though. It's like, I know it's supposed to be, and they didn't have to choose broccoli. They could have chosen anything.
Broccoli is also such a weird
something
choice
more
because, like,
exciting.
Japanese
like
kids don't really hate broccoli.
Yeah, they talk about
green
piman,
peppers.
you know, like green peppers or whatever. But like I've never heard
it's
a
so
kid be
much
like,
not
like
a
broccoli.
thing
Like,
that
no
like
one.
I think it was the movie Inside Out. Literally had to change the localization because there's like a thing with the little girl doesn't like broccoli, and it didn't like Japanese audiences in tests didn't understand that whole thing, so they changed it to green peppers.
Wow. Then why did they do that? Oh my god, did they do that on purpose so they could use the afro wig? Oh my god. Oh my god.
But it's very
conspiracy.
Possible. But it's because it's like, I'm sorry, but afro wig, even if it's a green afro wig that does not look like broccoli, you're out of your mind.
Yeah, no.
It does not.
No. And he did not like a kappa at all. He did not have a beak. He did not like.
No.
Yeah, they have
also,
they have
kappas,
plates
like,
on their head,
balding
and
or
then like they
something,
have
like,
like
in the middle,
straight hair that sticks out on the sides. It's
completely straight hair, so it made no sense for him to have an afro.
No, it was a very bad excuse.
Yeah. Yes.
Speaking of trauma, you know, the death of a parent is pretty traumatic. Yes. And Chuya is suffering from that. And I don't know, like, losing a parent as a young person is not easy. But, like, he literally doesn't have anyone to talk to.
Yeah.
Like,
no, he literally has no one.
Yeah.
Like, oh, God.
Even Sora. He lied to Sora to avoid talking about it.
Yeah. Sad. It's so sad.
Right?
And it doesn't seem like he has, like, you know, he really talks to, like, his family either. Like, he doesn't really seem to, because his mom is always threatening him with the broccoli monster, so he can't talk to her. and the brother's working, you know, to help take care of the family, so I don't think he really has anyone to talk to.
Yeah. And, I mean, you don't get over something like that. Yeah, I don't know when his father passed away. I don't think it was mentioned in the drama.
I think they said it was right before he got into high school.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Because I rewatched that part quite a bit, because it's a very, like, it goes by so fast. Like, it's literally, like, one little, like, mention, and then it's like, oh, you know, and then, like, it's like when Sora goes to play pool with Chuya's boss. For some reason, I guess, because someone had to go pit. and he mentions it to kind of in passing a bit. Like, he's just like, yeah, his father passed away, you know, before he started, like, high school. And then Sora's like, what? You know, like, well, he just looks, like, shocked because he didn't know. And then like, the boss is like, oh, did he not tell you? And then it never, and the thing is, I found it so weird because they cut back to the scene of the two boys together, and Chuya still says nothing about that. And I was just like, are we, okay, cool, I guess.
And they're in their first year of high school?
I think second. Right?
Second.
Yeah, I think
second?
so.
I think so. I think second.
Yeah. Still, it's, I believe Chuya and Sora had been friends since middle school?
I mean, at least. I mean, and from the special, we find out they've known each other since they were, like, elementary school kids or something. Or...
It would be weird for Sora not to know that, right?
Yeah, you would think,
but at the same time, Chuya's whole personality is he doesn't like to tell the truth about anything.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, and he's always very happy-go-lucky. He doesn't really show, like, his emotions.
So it's like, trauma? What trauma? I don't have any trauma. I'm fine.
Yeah, that's true. He is that kind of character, so... But I still found it surprising that Sora didn't know. I mean, I know he doesn't talk about it, but it's like, I just assumed he would know, and then he didn't, and I was like, oh, whoa.
He would at least be invited to the funeral, I think.
No.
I mean, the whole thing about the show is, like, their friendship is so weird because they are both, like, they're, like, the only friends in each other's lives, but they're still so different from each other.
Yeah, that's true. And I still feel like there's still, like, quite a distance between them, even though they're supposed to be, like, such good friends, I guess. So, yeah, I guess he wouldn't tell his friend about his father, and, it seems like he has no one to talk to, really. Unfortunately. So the student that Tamogami's groomer / teacher tried to protect, but ended up attempting to commit suicide by jumping into a river. That teacher ended up saving him at the cost of his own life. And so obviously the trauma of his sudden death still affects Tamogami sensei, and also I'm assuming that kid as well, because he ends up like quitting school and stuff. We never know what happens to him after that.
Another mystery,
never ever again. But it went bad for him because he had brown hair, apparently. And so Tamogami sensei still goes to visit that sensei's like grave site, like near the river, and give flowers at least every year. And so she goes to the bridge over where he died to commemorate his death. The anniversary of his death.
Apparently that teacher's death also affected the principal
I mean, that's why he has
bit.
that speech to Sora, right, about following the rules, because it saves lives.
Yeah, he's like, oh, you have to follow rules to save lives.
Yeah.
Because something bad happened in the past. That was
because of the rules.
Result of the rules.
Yeah, the logic is not necessarily
if he had
there,
just
but
dyed his hair, none of this would have happened.
But if you had followed the rules, this would not have happened. Yeah.
It's like,
Jesus
the whole
Christ.
teacher grooming thing, grooming their student. Yeah, that would have never happened if that guy had just dyed his hair. Oh, God. Yeah, so romantic relationships. And these are, all just kind of, I mean, not really. There's not actually a real romantic relationship in the show, but there's a lot of, like,
it's mostly just
I guess,
Sora's
hopeful
fever dreams,
fantasies of romance in the show. Yes. So Sora and Mao potentially, but not really. So Sora does this, like, in the end, like in the last episode, Sora does this like weird matchmaking calculations or something, like he does, and it takes up almost fucking 10 minutes. Like it takes, like, I counted 8 minutes, like 8 minutes of screen time.
And again,
a 22-minute episode. That's a 22-minute episode. Oh my god.
Oh my
god. Yes, just for him calculating, trying to find a way to make him and Mal
it's
be
very
together
weird, but like it's
math fate.
It is definitely. I don't know about numbers, but it's certainly like a thing. Some people get into like astrology. Some people do like blood type personality stuff. There's some people that are like just so sure that if they just do find the science-ish stuff, they can figure out fate. I can't say, whatever. It's just numbers.
Science-ish.
But it's the idea of like, oh, these two numbers are fated because of this calculation or whatever, and I'm like,
okay, like his pseudoscience.
It's a very high school boy thing
like
to do,
his like weird astrology math.
It did not need to be such a lengthy scene.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, that's the thing. I thought they were just gonna show like 1, maybe 2 minutes to it, and then they just kept going. And like even Chuya was like, I took a day off school for this. Like even he's like, no, can you stop? But like he just keeps going, and the show lets him, and I'm like, oh my god, please stop, someone, please. It's like he was already so boring, and this just made him like 10 times more boring. I was just like, oh my god, please shut up. Like, no.
Same.
But that's the thing.
He has no personality whatsoever.
Like he's not like
even coming from me who like
yes, he has no personality.
I really
you could
like
be a nerd and still have a personality.
I
know how
quite
to
like math,
be funny,
but
know
this
how to
was too
talk
much.
to people. But no, he's just like, I'm obsessed with this one girl, and I'm gonna use math to make us be together because I said so, and I'm gonna spend 8 minutes of this 22-minute episode figuring out how we should be together. And even though it doesn't add up that way, I'm gonna force it because I want this outcome. And it's like, okay, sir, we get it. Like, please stop. And another thing with Sora and Mao, well, mostly Sora. So Sora, when he does finally like talk to her and like I guess try to have a conversation with her, like in the end, this is kind of his moment to like I guess confess his like feelings or whatever. He tells Mao because she says like, oh, I think I'm gonna like, the only mention we really get about the dad in the show, like not the special, but like in the show, is that like he has like a motorcycle or something. She's like, oh, he has a motorcycle that he left, and I think I'm gonna learn how to ride it. I'm gonna get a motorcycling like license. And he's like, and Sora's like, oh, you shouldn't learn how to ride a motorcycle because it's too dangerous and you're not suited for it. And and I'm just like, what? Like, do you even know her? Like,
Oh no, he
hasn't stalked her yet, right?
Well, no, I mean, he's been stalking her.
Yeah, it's interesting. And
but he
this
still
is also,
doesn't know her,
I don't know
though.
how
He just
related
stalks
it is
her.
to what I was saying about, like, Hoffa being treated as, like, otherworldly. But she is definitely, like, in his mind, a manic pixie dream girl type. But, like, she still doesn't show that at all.
Yes.
It's in his mind only.
No!
Yeah, the idea of her.
Yes. Like, she's literally... Yeah, she's like shining, glowing in his mind. Like, she's kind of this ethereal presence, like in his mind. But like in reality, she's just like a normal kid just trying to like, survive in life. And, which I'm glad the drama at least shows that. The drama shows us, okay, no, she's just a normal kid. But like for him, it's like, wow, she's so beautiful. Look at her beautiful brown hair. And wow, she's just so amazing. And it's like, I'm sure she's cool or whatever, but it's like, you don't actually know anything about her. You're just basing this based on her appearance, pretty much, because you don't know her. So there's nothing else to base it on, right? It's just literally, he's like, I think she's attractive, so I want to get with her. And that's pretty much it. And they don't really get to know each other that much. They have a few, I guess, conversations, kind of, but like, he doesn't really ask her about like what she likes or what she wants to do, like what her interests are or anything. It's mostly just like, he's like, okay, well, I'm going to help change the rules for you because I think you're attractive. And it's like, okay, thanks, I guess. Cool. Yeah, maybe. And I also wonder if Mao was a boy, would he be like, oh, it's too dangerous for you to ride a motorcycle? Like, I wonder if he would like tell Chuya that or like, some other guy. Probably not. Yeah, and then at the end, as we talked about, it's implied that Sora kind of like, because like Sora's like, asking like, oh, are you available, like, whatever, this time to meet or something. And so he's like asking her out on a date, but in the special it hasn't led to anything. But the thing is, I think the special is kind of like in between episodes, right? It's not like,
I think the last episode is the only one that's like after.
Mm-hmm. But even that, like, there is no resolution to whatever he asked, what he asked her. Like, there's no answer. There's nothing. Right. You don't get any closure to that, which I'm fine with. I don't think they should date, but like, but like, there's no closure. There's nothing. It's just literally there, and then it's like it never comes back, and then he just continues to stalk her. That's it.
Yeah, like in the romance department, I guess they did. like do a comical take on Sora and Kirari as being meant for each other according to his like weird math logic. But like throughout like those 8 minutes, he dismisses and heavily denies that like he and Kirari could possibly
Has he not met
be
himself?
meant for
They
each
would be
other.
so good for
like,
each other. They're
it's
both
like
so
Kirari was just
like
Yes,
like
they're both so boring. Like, they would be
undateable that
perfect
he
for
can't
each
even
other.
fathom the
her
thought.
with her obsession with scheduling and him with his math like thing. Like, oh my god, like
yeah.
perfect couple.
I
Like,
mean, I
come
still
on.
I would prefer, like, if I were to put out my ideal, I would think again Mao and Kirari would be great together. But
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely.
yeah,
Much more chemistry.
yeah, but like the way that like he's so dismissive of the concept of Kirari even being an option is so again ridiculous because he's in his own world about the idea.
It's so weird, especially because it's like it's
Mao,
him. Like he has
sure.
no. Like, I'm sorry, but he's just like the most plain, boring. Like, just like there's nothing. He has nothing. He has nothing going on. Like, I'm sorry. Like, there's just nothing. So for him to be like, oh my god, like no, not her. It's like, what? You better be glad if she even pays attention to you. Honestly, like you should be happy. Like if she looks your way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, speaking of other,
his
well,
line is gonna
actually,
die
yeah,
out.
Sora and Kirari actually could be suitable if Sora wasn't so like tied up in his own world. But actually, let's talk about a couple that is definitely not suited for each other, but somehow sort of. Well, not that it happens, but like one of the characters kind of tricks the other one into like I guess going on a somewhat date with them, but he doesn't know it's a date, so yeah. So Otawa sensei is very thirsty for Morty sensei. Like she is like going. Like I have never seen
I
like,
think in
such,
one scene
you
she
know,
literally
like,
licked
just
her lips.
thirst. Oh my god. She was very into Morty sensei. Yeah, she pretty much like she also stalks him. She's a stalker as well. She follows him to Mao's house to spy on him, going in there. She's jealous that he's spending time with Mao's mom, even though there's nothing going on there. But, like, she doesn't know because she's just stalking him. She doesn't actually know him, right? And so she, like, threatens him and is like, oh, I'll tell, like, I'll report you if, you're going to a house with just 2 women and no man. Because, that's bad if you're a man, I guess. And then, like, she ends up, in the special, like, asking him to go out. Well, not, like to talk about, like, the discipline of the for the students or whatever. Because they skip the class, when they had the open school thing. But the thing is, like, at first he was like, okay, we should invite the other teachers. And she was like, no. Like, and then, like, and then she gets him again, and she's like, she asks him again, and then she's like, but it's only gonna be 2 of us. And he's like, okay, because he just doesn't care. Like, Morty sensei just doesn't care about it.
Again,
he's just like, yeah,
so
whatever.
ace.
And she's like, yes.
He just doesn't see it at all. It's not reading to him at all.
She's like, what is, he's like, what's going on? Why do you want to eat, like, dinner together? Okay, sure, whatever. Talk about kids, okay, whatever. Like, he literally cares. But she's like, yes, got him.
He didn't, like, flat out refuse her.
But the thing is, I think it's just not on his radar.
It was very clear he was not interested.
I think it's what Ayumi said. I think it's just not on his radar.
He's
like,
too overworked.
Think, like, romantic, like, or, like, sexual feelings are a thing. Well, probably, that's
the
probably
teachers,
also it. Like,
teachers everywhere are overworked.
Yeah.
I'm surprised any of us still have a sex drive.
Yes.
Bad joke.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, Otoa sensei sure does. She is raring to go. She is like, yes, Morty sensei.
Yeah, but it's so interesting in the special. Once he accepts her invitation, which is to him probably again unclear what it's about, but it's very clear on her end that she's asking him out, and she's like, immediately becomes super giddy and like almost schoolgirl. Like, it's so interesting.
It's true. That's true. She completely changes like her entire personality. And, like, that's what I'm saying. I literally think she was just like, she needs a man to like calm her down. Like that's I feel like that's the trope, or like what's the stereotype.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's the thing. I have no idea, but I think so.
Yeah.
On the other hand, like Inoue-san, who is interested in Mari, Mao's mom. And I think it's the first time they met each other.
Yeah, because
he asked her to marry him.
Because wasn't like
Right.
I think it was the first day they met. And he was like, would you marry me?
Kofi was like looking through the window and like she didn't seem to know him, right? So I'm assuming she didn't know him. She probably didn't know the other like factory workers. I'm assuming.
And she's like,
so yeah, it's probably the first time you met her.
Hi everyone, Editing Faith here. So we spent so much time on this episode that we were just so tired after it that we completely forgot to actually record an outro. So this will substitute that. We would like to thank you all, as always, for listening to our podcast. Sorry it took so long for this episode to come out. There's just really been so much going on, but it's finally out here to you all, and we thank you all for continuing to listen to us, even though we're not very consistent with uploading. So thank you all, as always. And we'd also like to, again, thank Ayumi for being a guest on this episode. We spent so much time recording, but, Ayumi is really a champ and always came each time, and it was always a fun, always a blast. And if you all really like our podcast episodes and are into what you're hearing here, please feel free to leave us a review or rating on Apple Podcasts. It really helps people find us. You can do it on Apple Podcasts and I'm sure on any other podcasting platform that you use. If you could just rate and review us, that would be really, really helpful to us. Also, we would love for you to contact us. Like, we'd love to know who's listening to us, what do they think of the episodes, because sometimes it really does feel like we're just talking into the void. So please contact us on social media. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Accidental Kiss, all lowercase. And you can also follow us on Twitter at kiss_accidental. And that's also all lowercase. Or you can email us at kiss.accidental@gmail.com. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time where we'll talk about Black School Rules Part 3. Bye!
Stuck in an elevator where everything's a miss. Forced to marry the first guy you accidentally kiss. Betrayed by your only friend, so she can get the guy. The reasons above and more are why. The way we feel about Asian dramas is just so complicated. It is so complicated.